mind. Stable theories they all refuse to find. I've been working on energy for a brand new day, but even in the crowd I've still been cast away. Alienated from the A's of added nature in disguise. Ideas ahead of time dismissed with narrow eyes. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talking about 0 point, the points lost on them. Kevin structures crumbling from the same old Sam. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor under injustice burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish, wanting shed boys. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you get to deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Chasing revolutions in the darkest nights. A dreamer with vision beneath the laughter and noise. A future so bright waiting for the right choice. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Beneficence TV Live. I'm your host, the Benefactor. Malcolm Bendall, the plasma fusion specialist behind the Thunderstorm generator, will be joining Beneficence TV Live every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new podcast called The Bendall Report. So welcome to the pregame show. Stay tuned because at 10 p.m. together we will step into the mind of Malcolm Bendall, genius inventor and ambassador to the plasmoids, as he unravels the mysteries of divine science, ancient wisdom, and the hidden forces that shape our universe. Every episode is planned to be a deep dive into Malcolm's revolutionary ideas in plasma fusion, vortex energy, and the divine that connects it all. The Bendall Report premieres tonight with new episodes every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Beneficence TV. But before we kick off our new podcast with Malcolm, I want to ground us in something extremely important with our pregame show. This practice can be beneficial to the lab setting along with your own personal life. It's the discipline of first principle thinking and a topic that I call divine science. So let's start by jumping back into the lab, because what's happening here in my lab with my vortex coil research is the perfect metaphor for what's happening in the universe. Tonight's test rig is the modified Jewel Thief variant I've been working on. I call it the Lightning Thief. And I want to clear up a common misconception that almost everybody has about the Jewel Thief circuit. The myth goes like this. If your Jewel Thief circuit is humming loudly, that means you're getting resonance, and resonance is good, right? So the louder the better. Well, this is the misconception. It's true that this ringing is a sign of resonance. However, if it's humming loudly, you're actually losing a lot of energy. You see, sound is energy. Vibration is energy. If your device is screaming, that means the energy is being dumped into the air as mechanical vibration, not your load or light source. So when you tune a resonant system like the one we have here correctly, the loud resonance collapses into something quiet, tight, and efficient. The quietest version is almost always the most efficient one, in my opinion. So when you're working with the Jewel Thief coils, rodent coils, or any high-frequency switching devices, really, you'll notice something interesting. Sometimes the system is almost silent, and other times it rings, hums, or even screams at you. And that sound isn't exactly random. It's telling you exactly what's happening electrically. A vortex coil acts as both an inductor and a capacitor that has geometric properties which allow it to operate a natural resonant system. Its toroidal geometry distributes charge along intertwined winding paths, which create both inductive and capacitive characteristics at the same time. This dual nature lets the coil become its own resonant system pretty easy, storing magnetic energy in the windings and electric energy between them. In other words, the geometry itself invites the coil to seek a natural frequency where energy flow is coherent, self-organizing in patterns. Think of it like this. Picture a guitar string. It has a frequency that it wants to vibrate at when you pluck it, right? That frequency is determined by its length and width, etc. If you hit it with a sharp energy pulse, very hard, it rings and reverberates after that initial pulse. If you feed it a smooth, steady current, say quiet, less reverberation happens, less chaos after the initial pulse. We want to aim for plucking the string smooth, clean, and repeatedly with less reverberation. Now here's the trick. Different loads plucked the string in different ways, right? Different light sources can have variant effects on your system's efficiency when you're dealing with resonant systems. A simple incandescent light bulb is mostly resistive. It smooths out the waveform. It adds damping and doesn't excite the coil very much. Now, some people use incandescent bulbs as an example of simple resistive loads for these types of systems, but in my case, we're using a 40-watt LED panel, and that has its own internal driver, and that really matters here. Because a resistive load tends to smooth out the waveform, while an LED panel like this one, on the other hand, has a switching power supply inside of it. Even though it looks like it's constant light to your eyes, electrically it's full of high-frequency switching activity that my coil can actually feel. The driver usually runs smoother than the tiny blinking LED bulbs, so the coil stays relatively quiet compared to other light bulbs. But it's still not pure resistance. It's just less aggressive in the way it kicks the coil compared to something like the blinking LED you'll see in our mini lab in a minute. That thing hits the system with a sharp pulse that excites the coil's natural resonance, but it's loud and inefficient. Even though it is, I think, half a watt, it's consuming a lot less energy, but at the same time, the efficiency, the rate of consumption, doesn't match nearly what we're getting with the 40-watt panel. So why is a 40-watt LED panel? So while the 40-watt LED panel isn't as gentle as the real, blinking LED, it behaves more stable enough that my coil doesn't get smacked with the same high-frequency spikes, which is why it hums quietly instead of screaming like the blinking LED light bulb. Again, we have the guitar analogy, plucking the string real hard versus clean and steady, but less intense. So speaking of the blinking LED light bulb, the oscillating bulb, this thing is a totally different animal than the 40-watt panel. The blinking bulb has its own little switching circuit inside. It charges a tiny capacitor. That capacitor has a threshold, dumps the current, and repeats. Even though you see it blinking slowly, electrically it produces sharp, high-frequency edges. Those edges are probably hitting the coil like a tiny, sharp hammer. The coil responds by ringing loudly at its natural frequency. It's bright when there's a sharp hit, more excited, but when it's dim, you don't hear much of a sound at all. So what about adding a capacitor across the load with the 40-watt panel, though? As we've done this in the open circuit mode, and that's actually the only way you can get the coil to excite in open circuit mode, from my experience with the stereo amp receiver. Well, the capacitor in parallel with the load can strengthen the LC tank and actually raise the resonance, raising the Q factor, as it were. The Q factor determines how efficient your resonance is. What we were talking about earlier, you can have resonance, but that resonance has a quality factor to it. This is the Q factor. It's not just about obtaining resonance. It's about clean, sharp, and long pulses of coherent energy. The higher your Q factor, the more efficient your system. By adding the 0.15 microfarad capacitor in parallel with the 40-watt panel, the system becomes more sensitive and delicately tuned, raising the Q factor. With the capacitor attached, we now hear a slight and subtle hum, whereas before we didn't really hear anything. What we did was just make it easier for the coil to sing nice and quiet. But that doesn't mean ringing in a Joule Thief circuit is always going to be music to your ears. Remember, loud ringing is usually a sign of some kind of energy loss. It's a good place to start for looking for the resonance range of your coil, but then you have to fine-tune your system to reduce that sound as much as possible. So the simple rule of thumb is quiet hum equals stable, clean resonance with a high Q factor. Remember, you want quality resonance, not junk with too much reverb. Loud hum equals something inside the circuit is kicking the coil with sharp pulses, probably too hard. It's excited and resonant, but too much interference and reverberation is causing energy loss in the form of sound and mechanical vibration. Once you control the excitation process, you can control the sound. Smooth loads give you silence. A switching load gives you noise. And if you want the clean, efficient, quiet mode, you add a bit of dampening. Smooth out the spikes and stop anything in the system from plucking that guitar string too hard. That's how you interpret coil noise and how you control it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, Society of High Sciences. What's going on, Paul? Mickey asked, what is it called, Ben? What are you referring to? Would a pure sine wave inverter have a better Q factor than a non-sine wave? It's hard to say, but I suspect that one of these transistors is going to produce efficiency. I believe two of them will help produce more of a true synthetic sine wave. And what I mean by that is pushing the forward EMF in both directions along with the back EMF in both directions. Instead, we're just pushing them in one direction. Excuse me. Albeit we're chasing them with correct timing and precise geometry of the coil, reducing resistance. So, yeah, that's an interesting question. It's hard to say, but I want to lean towards a pure sine wave, being the more efficient. But again, you want a pure sine wave that's created with those sharp inductive pulses, right? Those sharp spikes. It can't just be a smooth sine wave. At the micro scale, you have to be able to zoom in and see those spikes. So in this first mini lab, I'm going to be demonstrating this noise. Okay, I'll show you the 40 watt panel. I did increase the brightness recently by reducing the base resistor to 220 ohms. It was at 1K. The schematics, I mean, you're going to have to tune it based on your coil because every coil is going to be a little bit different. But generally, if you have the same size and same number of wind and same number of channels and all that as my coil, then it will generally be the same resistance. So keep that in mind as well. But if your coil's bigger or you have a different number of channels or whatnot, it's going to be needing further adjustment. So we did get the brightness to increase pretty significantly with adjusting that base resistor. And we did get the new transistor to work. So again, we were running a MJE 13009L series high-speed transistor. But there is a newer series that came out that is able to handle those higher frequencies with that higher Q factor. So that's very important, but we haven't been able to tune it in yet. What I need to do is get a 50 ohm potentiometer, and I'll remove the current 1 mega ohm potentiometer on the base, replace that with the resistance value that it's set at right now for resonance, and then I'll get a 50 ohm pot and I'll put it on the replace the resistor with that, and I'll just fine-tune that more. And that's how we're gonna really tune into the base resistance, because the base is what controls the switching of your transistor. So it's very important to tune that in as much as possible. So I think that method will allow us to tune the coil quite a bit, because right now the transistor works, but it's a little bit less bright than it's the same transistor, but an older variation. So remember, it's switching at the same speed, it's just less clean, at that higher frequency range. So it shouldn't be harder to get it to the same brightness. What we are is just out of range. It requires further tuning. It's going to be a little bit different than the transistor that we're currently using for this mini lab. But we did get it working, and that's really exciting. I was really happy to see that because my initial test was I plugged it in and it didn't work. So I did have to play with the base resistance on that a little bit. So we're going to have to fine-tune that a little bit more. Oh, the new transistor, if anybody's interested, is the E13009-2 series. So it's the same exact transistor, only it's a little bit smaller, so it should fit a little bit nicer in the Lightning Thief case. Here, I'll show you. So that's the case that we're cramming all this circuitry into. It's actually not a lot, the circuit board, but we want to make it sure that it has enough to breathe. So that's important. All right, we're going to set up the mini lab cam. Give me a second. I'm going to transition to a quick intermission, and we'll come back with a quick mini lab demonstration. And then at 10 o'clock, Malcolm Bendall should be on. I'm going to check my emails. I did send him an invite. We do have quite a bit of a time difference, though, so keep that in mind. That's why we set this thing up late at night.
In a world where innovation is stifled by greed and corruption, there lies a hidden truth that could revolutionize our way of life.
Lenny, what are you doing? Are you seriously pitching a new show right now? I didn't authorize this. My God, only 5 minutes into your new position as co-host, and you're already adding to my tight schedule.
Yes, sir, I manage that schedule. But I did notice you have an entire 2 days available during your week.
Wait, you're not talking about Saturday and Sunday, are you?
Of course, sir. You have 2 whole days where you're free to work on new content.
Lenny, those are my days off.
It's okay, sir. I know you'll manage just fine. I have faith in you.
Do robots have faith?
I do. I have faith that you won't screw it up again.
You know what? It's fine. Go ahead. I'll just build my cold fusion Lego set some other time.
It's PON certified.
But I'm not telling them about my idea for a thunderstorm toilet. I'm gonna keep that baby close to my chest.
You know, that just sounds wrong.
It's a good idea. A toilet capable of turning any toxic human waste into, well, it turns into petroleum jelly.
Why petroleum jelly, sir?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't think it's calibrated correctly.
Enough is enough. The world is at a breaking point. Catastrophic climate change, biosphere collapse, and a global energy crisis have been met with apathy, denial, and despair. The phrase unidentified flying object is a deliberately obfuscating term. What it really is an alternative energy and propulsion device. This is the real reason for the secrecy. These technologies, if they were disclosed, would end fossil fuels, pollution, and poverty overnight, and usher in a new era of abundance, freedom, and peace. Instead, they have been kept secret for over 100 years.
The more powerful the agency, the more powerful the group, the more powerful the cartel, the more they will resort not only to legal means, but to extra legal means to suppress their competition.
I said pretty early on, the problem is suppression. It wasn't really how do I make a free energy machine. It's how do I not get suppressed? Because what's the point?
Microscopic ball lightnings that when they discharge are tapping into that 0-point energy field and creating the motive force.
Boom!
That's why the concussion from the thunderclap is so huge. There's this huge amount of energy that's actually sourced from the vacuum energy. All the dots connected. This is what's happening, right? So we need to make the thunderclap engine.
Imagine a future where clean, sustainable energy is not just a dream, but a reality. Discover the countless untold stories of free energy devices and the relentless battle against those who seek to suppress them for their own gain.
Black shelving. So someone comes along, they offer you $20 million for your device, it's a corporation, they put it on a shelf. Boom.
This power is something I have given my life for you the people.
Uncover the shocking tactics used by energy industries to control the narrative and maintain their grip on power.
You don't interfere with the big, powerful people. You don't put them out of business. They still have those 50-year leases on the lines and on the power transformers.
Environmental Protection Agency is a bit of a dictatorial police agency.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue his own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
This is real, usable power. It's stable. It is not transient. It is not noise. Behind the lamps, that little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power. The rest of that power is coming out of the surging energy of the vacuum, and this little box that you see right here, solid state, no moving parts, is the vacuum triode that's doing this very practical and historical work.
But indeed, it put out more energy than it took in.
He was shot at once with a silenced rifle from about 300 yards. It reads like a James Bond movie, but it's real.
There are men here that said they're FBI, and they got black vans, and they're taking all this equipment. What should I do?
It's called capture, where they try to rationalize away this problem and everything's fine.
From manipulation of patent authorities to infiltration of government agencies, the truth is stranger than fiction. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerges in the form of renegade scientists and inventors who refuse to be silenced.
There is absolutely no question that T. Henry Morey had a system that produced about 50 kilowatts out of a 55-pound box.
In the shadows of capitalism's dark secrets, join us on a thrilling new show. Get ready to be inspired, enraged, and empowered as we delve into the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices.
Only on Beneficence TV.
But even in the crowd, I'm still a castaway. Alienated from the aims of that adventure in disguise. Ideas ahead of time, dismissed with narrow eyes. Benefactor system are treated like a toy. Ideas are misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talking about 0 point, the points lost on them. Kevin structures coming from the same old Sam. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor, unheard injustice, burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish when I teach and boys. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world begins to play. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Revolutions in the darkest nights. A dreamer with vision beneath the laughter and noise. A future so bright waiting for the right choice. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone needs just a little foundation. Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone needs just a little salvation. Lifted majestic moments in cosmic flight. Holding on to the stars of starlight. There's a light within the dark waves, guided by echoes of ancient ways. Unify our reflection. With everything there's a connection. Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone feels a goodness around invitation.
All right, Elijah said, did we already cover the No, the Bendall report starts at 10. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we had planned to have Malcolm on for his designated slot. This is the pregame show. So I was demonstrating how adjusting the resistance can increase the efficiency and the brightness along with that. And you saw that the resistance, once it was changed, it actually lit the neon lamp while it was powering the load as well, which is pretty cool. But it's also problematic because we don't want that lamp to burn out. So we're going to need to adjust the resistance on the lamp now. But it's a lot brighter, so it makes a good lab lamp. So overhead light. I did hook up the 0.15 microfarad capacitor and show you guys the waveform with and without it. I know it's kind of hard to see on this equipment, but I did my best. So going back to the way we want to get that resonance at a high Q factor, regarding getting that clean, sharp spike, this is what Bedini used to say. John Bedini. He would say that you want to get the electric field to snap before the collapse of the magnetic field. So what this means is you want to shut off the current so fast that the system can't sing. It has no time to waste energy as vibration. So a faster transistor like the one we just got and we're going to tune into, it leads to a faster switch off time, right? Which in turn leads to a sharper snap, which in turn leads to a higher radiant spike and higher efficiency. So, this insight right here, this is first principle thinking in real time. So before we shift to the big picture, let me remind everyone what first principle thinking actually means. So it's the discipline of stripping a problem down to its fundamental truths. The fundamental truth is that which can't be reduced any further, and then reasoning upward from there, instead of relying on assumptions, tradition, or what everybody else says or believes, right? Engineers use it, scientists use it, philosophers use it. I actually use it. I actually been using it, using first principle thinking for years. I just didn't have an official name for it until Malcolm Bendall started talking about it, and then I looked into it. So my process has always been the same, though. Strip a system down to its most basic, undeniable mechanism of action, and then rebuild the theory upward from that solid foundation. No assumptions, no hand-me-downs, just the core truth, and everything logically built from there. So if you think about it, every breakthrough in history came from someone who was willing to abandon the inherited explanations and start from the raw, undeniable basics. In the lab, first principle thinking plays out like this. I'm trying to understand more about why this vortex coil system sings. Well, let's think about it for a moment. Energy cannot just disappear. If it's humming, vibrating, or heating the board, that energy is being wasted. That is a first principle truth. Switching to taking a shift towards metaphysics for a moment, in philosophy, we would say first principle truth is something cannot come from absolute nothing. So first principle thinking is simply taking the courage to begin at the truth, not the story that we're told about it, right? So if that makes any sense. Now, what does any of this have to do with divine science or debate about intelligent design? Well, it actually has everything to do with it, because the lab teaches us the same things the ancient world tried to say in metaphors. Energy doesn't behave randomly. It behaves with purpose. It arranges itself. It prefers symmetry, coherence, efficiency, and form. This is where divine science comes in. So, divine science is not a religion. It's not dogma. It's the merging point between ancient wisdom, modern physics, and spirituality. It's the recognition that the universe behaves like a conscious mind. Patterns repeat across all scales of the universe. Information is embedded in the structure of reality itself. Nothing emerges from literal nothing. In other words, everything comes from something, right? This is where that first principle thinking destroys the claim that everything came from randomness. When you think about, the atheist versus theist debate. So anyone can ask this question. Can something come from absolutely nothing? And they'll say no. Every human instinct says no. There is not one single example in our physical reality where nothing suddenly becomes something, right? With no cause, no field, no potential, no substrate, no information. Like, what do we see in the universe? What we do see in the universe is something collapsing, reorganizing, transforming, and expressing itself through geometry, vibration, and resonance. This is the underpinning of divine science. So if I were to be speaking to an atheist, I'd frame the argument on an intelligently designed universe like this. You don't have to believe in a bearded man in the sky. You don't even have to believe in any dogma specifically. But you do have to account for order, structure, intelligence, and information. This will inevitably lead you to ask the question that has only two possible answers. The universe is a mindless accident created from random chaos, or the universe is a structured information system with intention embedded in its laws, consciousness embedded in its creation. And all the evidence, not the philosophy, the physics, the tangible evidence, points to a universe as a consciously structured information system made with purpose. Particles know what to do. Fields evolve. Geometry manifests into life. Energy takes the path of coherence. Think about it. Engineers will tell you that precision never appears without function. If you see precision in a system, you're looking at the fingerprint of intelligent design. Now imagine trying to balance yourself on a narrow rail with one foot. That delicate, constant correction you have to make to balance yourself, the universe is doing that at every scale, with every force, and every moment. That razor-edge balancing act is our first glimpse of something deeper. The precision of the cosmos isn't an accident. It's actually evidence. Try this thought experiment for a moment. Imagine building a simulator where all the fundamental forces are tuned so perfectly that nothing falls apart and no energy is ever wasted. Even a quantum computer would probably have trouble with all the necessary variables a simulated real universe would require to function. So go ahead. I'll wait while you crunch the numbers.
Crunching the numbers.
Yeah.
Chipping away.
It's complicated.
It is, yeah. Did you have a question?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, I'll get back to it then.
Back to it then. Oh, that's funny. So, anyways, it is my opinion that you can interpret this precision as evidence of intelligence, right? Maybe not human intelligence, but intelligence nonetheless. And this is where I always remind people, ancient cultures weren't stupid. They weren't primitive. They just communicated in metaphors, poetry, symbols, and myths, right? It's no different than what Gen Alpha actually does today. And we're going to take a look at that for a moment. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice already. So, have you ever tried talking to somebody in the Gen Alpha, right? A younger fella? They speak in memes sometimes, layered metaphors, compressed symbols that only make sense if you grew up inside that culture, right? It's like speaking a different language if you talk to someone from Gen Alpha. It's really wild sometimes, and I'll give you a few examples, but ancient texts are exactly the same, right? Without the cultural context, you'll never decode the real message. And when you do decode it, well, that leads to something else entirely. Because as we've seen with Malcolm Bendall's research, the ancients knew what was up. So some examples of the Gen Alpha language, just to give you some context. Let's take a look at some phrases, all right? So help me decode these common Gen Alpha phrases, because I honestly, I did get lost in this research. I have absolutely no idea what these phrases are. I have them written down, but I don't have them memorized. So one phrase from Gen Alpha is, "That food is bussin'." So what do you think that means? Well, apparently it means that food is really good or delicious. All right, that one's an easy one. What about this one? "You got that Ohio Riz." What the hell is Ohio Riz? Okay. Apparently it means you have charm or skill with flirting. There's another one. "Stop the cap, that's brain rot." What? I don't even know how to dissect that one. But apparently it means don't lie, that's nonsense, that's making no sense. There's another common one. "This drip is insane, FR." This drip is insane. FR, well, that probably means for real. So yes, it means for real, but the whole statement means your outfit or style looks amazing for real. That drip? So I would have never connected drip to meaning your outfit or style. Oh. There's one more that's kind of baffling. "No way, that's straight gas." So that apparently means that's really good, awesome, or impressive. So like if you didn't have the cultural context for these phrases, you would have no way of knowing what exactly these people were talking about if they had it written down somewhere. And this is what we mean by going back in ancient history. You have to have the context to decode these texts. You can't just look at it literally. So with this context, looking back at ancient literature, you'll find that they were all describing the same physics we actually describe in modern terms. Regarding field interactions, energy cycles, creation and destruction dynamics, geometric principles, the primacy of vibration and frequency, right? And intelligence behind form. So they didn't have the mathematical equations to express this knowledge, so they told stories. But the stories reflect the physics. And that's where Malcolm Bendall's work is, and that's why Malcolm Bendall's work is so important here. The plasmoid unification model merges plasma physics, geometry, and high-order engineering into a single coherent picture. He doesn't talk about belief, he talks about structure. He doesn't talk about faith, he talks about function. He doesn't ask you to worship, he asks you to observe and ask questions. And that's the essence of divine science. The unity of the ancient and the modern, right? The spiritual and the physical. The wisdom and the waveform, as it were, all converging into the same truth. So tonight, before Malcolm joins us, I'm going to tell you that if you tune your coil, if you listen for the hum, if you listen for the silence, you can actually start to prepare for a deeper understanding of vortex energy systems. Because nothing comes from nothing. Everything, and I mean everything in the universe, comes from something. So stay tuned. After a short break, we'll be back at 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Malcolm Bendall on for the Bendall Report, right? That's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So don't go anywhere. I'll be back faster than you can hit that like button.
Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone needs just a little foundation. Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone needs just a little salvation. Dreams arise, seeking out the morning. Majestic moments in cosmic flight, holding on to the stars of starlight. There's a light within the dark waves, guided by echoes of ancient ways. Unify our reflection, with every beat there's a connection. Feel the pulse, divine sensation. Everyone feels the goodness of invitation. There's a light within the dark waves, guided by echoes of ancient ways. Unify our reflection, with every beat there's a connection. Feel the pulse, divine sensation.
Well, so cymatics would be the closest thing in a physical medium that we could use in order to visualize the material shifting and creating more coherent geometries. Some people work with salt. Some people work with Sedona red rock. You know, some people work with shungite powder. Each one of these types of powdered minerals will potentially have a different impact when different frequencies are applied to them. So this geometry is from the plasmoid unification model is now getting imprinted into the electromagnetic field, and the EMF mic is proving it. So, can I see someone's cell phone again? Can I see your cell phone? And then we'll just put the phone into the field. Look at that. So this is your brain. This is your brain on EMF. Don't do EMF. Just kidding. You can do it. Just, create some boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, nothing new under the sun. Sorry? With permission of the owner. Can we pass this around? Okay, yeah, so you're the one who came up with the idea. It's your responsibility if it goes missing.
It's such a special thing, and I have to thank the Matsumoto family for entrusting it with the project. Far in the universe, nuclear collapses very often take place by the gravitational force after stars consume their fuel. Since the electromagnetic force is about 40 orders stronger than the gravitational force, it should be easy to induce similar nuclear collapses by the electromagnetic force in laboratory. But we never knew until now how to do that. Recently, the author, Dr. Takaaki Matsumoto, discovered a nuclear collapse which was induced by the electromagnetic force in laboratory during studying the mechanisms of so-called cold fusion phenomena. Several kinds of nuclear reaction which were directly induced by the electromagnetic force, called electronuclear reactions, ENRs, were found so far to occur in a special state of hydrogen clusters called itonic clusters, or micro ball lightning. The nuclear collapse was one of the most remarkable reactions among ENRs, called the electronuclear collapse. Furthermore, very amazingly, completely broken materials by ENC were found to be regenerated to thin tubes and films of conventional elements such as carbon, oxygen, and iron. The latter process is called electronuclear regeneration.
So those are your crenellated spheres?
Okay, on the subject of the crenellated spheres. In several systems, if you have, at the bottom of a yin vortex, you are, in my view, at that point, you're twisting the ether in such a way that at that point, it starts to unravel matter. So in my presentation, I showed you this structure where I placed a Marsa gas, which has a special component in there, which is released when you burn the gas, and that produces this magnetohydrodynamic structure, and it has a vector down to a point where there's it's a torsion field, and it has a focus where in the structure of the physical vacuum at a quanta scale on a toroidal level above, there's the interaction between that vector and the toroidal vector of the structure of the physical vacuum above, okay? And at that point, it literally unwinds matter, and that's the yin pulling force. It desires to take from the environment to create life, okay? So that is disrupting matter. Now, any matter in that position will have the hidden matter within the energy ripped from it. And this is what Nina Kalugina was doing when she was using Psi-Force, which we have the capability to use. She was able to move material around, but she was also able to stop the heart of a frog and restart the heart of a frog with her intention through her hands. And then when one of her colleagues said, well, I'm not really believing this, try and do it to me, she did it and sent him into cardiac arrest, and they had to do CPR. So that's extracting chi, and it's just sad because there's two horrendous weapons that are possible with this technology that almost certainly have been developed and you don't know it's even possible, but in certain circles it's just accepted as part of things you can do, right? So it's able to extract that. And what happens when you extract that hidden energy within the matter? The electrons just fall off and the matter starts disassembling. And it disassembles in the most, in my view, most stable nucleon clusters. So it disassembles into protons, helium alpha particles, and carbon. So because you're changing the distortion of the physical vacuum, and all energy comes from a difference in change in the distortion of the physical vacuum. It doesn't matter whether it's chemical energy or nuclear energy. Okay, but I can tell you our experiment called Ultra Experiment, it's highly well defined. A 3-year-old can learn to conduct it and do the experiment within 7 minutes. It works 100% of the time if you follow the instructions, and you get lighter and heavier elements, and I wasn't blown up. It's called the least action process. Right? So the yang side, that's the brighter light in your Masonic temples, the sun force in all of the ancient religions, right? The swastika, right? That disassembles and unwinds the trapped light, okay? Then it can be unwound in such that the connection between the clusters in the particular nucleus fall apart based on their strength of binding. Okay. Then it goes through a wormhole, which is in page 91 in Matsumoto's book, which he worked out from 11 years of his research. Okay. Goes through the wormhole, comes through to the yin. So the yang is disassembling matter. It goes through a wormhole. It's not interacting with any matter. This is literally able to go through all of the matter you can possibly imagine without interaction.
And the wormhole connects the center of the yin to the center of the yang?
Yes. You getting it? And on the other side, on the yin, it assembles matter. So there, in this particular experiment, which I think ran for 90 seconds or 300 seconds, one or the other, on that particular side, you don't want to run it long because it gets confused. This is confused, right? There's lots of experiment things that went on all over the place, over and over and over again. So it ends up being homogeneous. It just looks like rock. Okay, so it comes around the other side, and on that side, inside the Vesica Pisces, inside the golden ratio line, there is exactly a 2-arm spiral galaxy structure, which was replicated by other parties. And inside those places, but it's not that the Magatarm is up here and then the other side it's down there. It is the 69. It is the yin-yang, even on that level. It literally looks like a 6 and a 9. On that side, there was calcium and no boron. So if it's a contamination in the system and both vortexes are the same, you should see calcium and boron here and calcium and boron here, but you don't. You see boron here with no calcium, which is aluminium minus oxygen, and over here you see aluminium plus oxygen, which is some isotopes of calcium in the absence of boron, and that is the yin side, the creative force in the universe. You literally cannot have a universe which does not have yin and yang. And because it's fractal, every yang has a yin and a yang, and every yin has a yang and a yin. Okay, there's female in all of us, and there's male in all of us. Get over it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So, the least action process defines that you are reorganizing the nucleons in a way that doesn't involve the Coulomb barrier. It's irrelevant. Forget about it. Right? Forget about it. And it comes around the other side. And so you're taking apart matter. That has energy. It's captured and it's released in the reorganization of the matter on the other side. There might be a net-net.
Characteristics of ball lightning, you find them in crop circles, and you'll find them in comet sort of impacts where there's the same multi-axis shear, and they're producing these things. So they're concurrent, with everything else.
So can I finish the question? So I was wondering, is it potentially that one of the spheres that was welded could have contaminants of a magnetic material, and that's causing the isopotential lines to steal the plasma, increasing the heat on one side? Because you did say, like with magnets,
No, what's happening is, remember, there's two things happening inside. So it's counter-rotational spin.
Yeah.
So you've got the vacuum pulling through your water in its gas phase, pulling through plasmoids, right? Mm-hmm. My theory on it, I think at the moment it would be brave for anyone to state an absolute, right? Because even though I've been working on it, it's still everything I think's a theory, and it fits into my theory. But what I believe is that the plasmoids, when they come, when you have the exhaust gas interacting with the plasmoids coming through on the inside sphere, there's a point, and it's almost a sort of a linear point where the temperature changes. I believe that is because as it's coming out of the exhaust, it interacts and to build up the charge in the plasmoids that are actually coming through. And once they're built up to charge and big enough, they steal the heat. That's my theory. You know, like they actually get to a point where they're absorbing the heat. And that's why it's on a line this way, even though they're spinning that way. A really interesting thing we found that, because we had the temperature probe, even if you stick like a Jubilee clip or something, you know, for a sampling point on the thunderstorm generator, and this is what it's been frustrating with welders and that, because they just, oh yeah, I'm just welding up they think they're just welding up an exhaust gas system, but you're not. You're welding up like a violin, right? So the transitions have to be right, and there has to be a lot of attention to detail, so you don't have any points at which you are discharging, right? And the whole annealing process is to get rid of those anomalies. Because what I wanted to do was have everyone have the same thunderstorm generators. We intend to put 25 of them around the world. I think we've got about, and Bob's got, I think, 6 or 7 homes for the new batch. And we've made homes for the previous batch around the world, so people do independent testing. But it's so important with the original test that everyone's testing on the same prototype. Because we've had sort of people go, oh, look, this thing doesn't work as it should, and say, well, what's it made out of? Is the first question. Oh, well, I can't weld stainless steel, so I did distill. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it's not stainless steel. So, it's not the catalyst it should be. Because it's got its own electromagnetic field, and it's not a normal field, right? And because it's so sensitive, but you also, when you put that on, you're changing the frequency. If you put a clip on it, or you put a bracket on it, right, to Earth, that's deadly. The one good thing about the generators, they're sitting on rubber, which insulates, because the plasmoids will go to Earth. They'll go to Mother Earth, right? They'll go to ground, right? So the insulation is a very important factor, not to short-circuit it. And the subtle thing, we went to the lab in North Carolina State University, and what they did was they added a pipe which changed the frequency, and then they put it in the fume cabinet, and the fume cabinet is grounded to Earth. Right, and they say, why does it work, Malcolm? I said, send me a picture, because I knew what had happened. You don't buy a violin or, say, a slide trombone, and then change the side of the slide, the length of the slide, and expect it to operate in the same manner. This is tuned to the exact frequency it needs to be. If you take the 10 most abundant elements on the Earth, oh, well, when we run from the water and we do our cavitation, we find the 10 same in abundancy, the same abundancy as you find in the Earth. As above, so below. It's absolutely extraordinary. And it's so simple. Yeah. But here we have the Hutchison effect, right, which is demonstrating that colour. Right? Now, Solomon's molten sea was made of that colour, and it's also, if you like, the reddy purple robes of the priests, who were insulated carts opening up the Solomon's molten sea, which I reverse engineered. And would you believe that there's 2,000 baths of water in Solomon's molten sea? But this sample is a miracle. That it's here and now, and I can stand up here and hold orichalcum, which means 3 things. Atlanta exists. Otherwise, where did the orichalcum for Solomon's molten sea come from? Right? And Solomon's molten sea is 2,000 baths. Why? Because go back to the truth. Reject the toxic stupidity of the metric system. Hold on to the cubit, the furlong, the inch. These are God's measurements. The plasmoid's job which we call Shamir or EVOs, or you go back to the Sanskrit text in China that I got access to. I wanted to see the cover because that document was discovered in 1885, right, and was sent to India, language professor. It was then translated by a Tibetan Shaolin priest, right? The hand forms that he taught me are force magnification, right? So, and left and right, male and female. Yep. So that what you're doing is by changing your hand form and by flattening your hand and pulling your palm back, and you can all do it. It's an interesting thing. If you hit something with your hand and you haven't got the hand form, you'll break your hand. But if you restructure your hand, you're putting, if you hit a fist, right, that's 20 times more volume, or 20 to 30, depending on, you know, what your geometry is. But if you can focus all your force in one inch punch, then in that point, solar plexus, right, or what you're doing is a force multiplier. That's 20 or 30 times more powerful than a punch. Simple geometry, simple fact. Yeah. So basically, and also part of those techniques was, I said, the frequency lifting rocks. But in a meditative state, my teacher would levitate himself. But the point is that with this, with the Solomon's Molten Sea, the units of measurements, which you have to be very mindful of, and the volume relates and the angles relate to its frequency. This is a time crystal. It's an imploding structure that we lost, and you can get it from first principle. But what's the truth? The truth is that Solomon's Molten Sea is 2,000 baths, 72 hin in each bath. It's 144,000. It's the enlightened ones. The enlightened ones realize that Solomon's Molten Sea was charging the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant is 2.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits, which is 5.625 square cubits. Why did Nikola Tesla measure out the exact volume? But Nikola Tesla weighed out the copper first, right, and then made the wire from it. And he had the same copper block from the same, you know, because not everything's the same, from the same pot of copper pouring out two exact cubes, and you have to match it. It's the subtleties. So what I'm saying is there's a relationship between why was it so important that before they made the Tibetan bells, and my teacher, Tibetan teacher, made me go through that process meticulously, because then once I'd got the exact volume, right, using a square, then we melted it down and made a Tibetan bell. Ka-ching. Boom. Right? Time, volume, frequency. The thunderstorm generator is the most sophisticated machine ever seen on the earth. Going back to my time in China, when I found the document that Oppenheimer used to build the atomic bomb that was found in a cave in China when the earthquake happened, the wall collapsed, that document was then translated and taken to America. I stayed in exactly the spot where that priest, monk, did all his work and had the ashram originally, and that's where I got my downloads. Exactly the same time, space. That's why you have sacred points. But the main thing is, if you go back, the further you can go back in time, as Oppenheimer did. He wrote 2 books on Sanskrit. Tesla was taught by the guy that interpreted those scripts. So basically, the sequence of events was that for the Environmental Protection Agency, our business partners have the environmental people coming in doing samples. they then would have the results come in. They'd have to certify every month that they're meeting the EPA standards. So we had them come in and do the test work on our motors, which confirmed that my gas analyzer was meeting the same results as they were getting. And then we went through a process about 3 months where they came in and did the samples. They then spoke to the government and to the manufacturers of their machine, and therefore the configuration that you saw that was tested yesterday was a configuration that they approved of. Now, so it means that they are then coming on the 28th. So we redesigned to their specification those points. Yeah, well, it's a bit 2 weeks before I came to this conference, as they always do, they trashed my website.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and I apologise for that too, but that happens, that's been consistent.
Gotcha.
This time it was a bit more malicious because not only did they crash the website, it was a lot deeper technically.
Okay.
So they corrupted all the files, the videos don't play, so I had to go back, and I haven't had time because I've been trying to prepare for this conference, to go back and fix things. So
Imagine a world where time travel is no longer confined to the realms of science fiction.
Time travel. It's possible, sir.
Where do you come from?
I'm from the past.
Imagine being able to plant crops in the morning and then harvest those crops that very night. Or how about healing a wound with a localized time acceleration device? A device that can speed up time in a small focused area, reducing the time it takes to heal wounds. Take a moment with me to imagine this world. A world where time is no longer a constraint, but a tool. Remember Back to the Future? The flux capacitor is a fictional device from the Back to the Future movie franchise that was used to achieve time travel. According to the movies, the flux capacitor is powered by plutonium and generates the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity needed to create a temporal displacement field. Sounds like a giant load of fiction, right? The truth is actually a lot stranger than fiction. Let's explore further.
Told me the whole story. You were standing on your toilet and you were hanging a clock and you fell and you hit your head on the sink. And that's when you came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible.
Hey, Scott!
The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutchison has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979. He began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual ways. It has come to be known as the Hutchison effect.
This is real dustification you're going to see here. Now, if that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. It turns to dust.
Malcolm Bendall, an inventor with a background in geochemistry, demonstrates his groundbreaking thunderstorm generator to a room full of people in Zurich, Switzerland.
you'll have a positive and negative end, north pole, south pole, two tornadoes colliding in the middle.
Thunderstorm in a bottle. Electronics engineer and inventor Joe Parr conducted experiments on the top of the Great Pyramid. Parr claimed to have discovered yet another strange physical phenomenon. The model pyramid became weightless in the energy field.
A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
figured out how to draw the fundamental map. The whole topic today is about the number 9. The most great name of God equals number 9 in the Baha'i scriptures. This energy is the only thing that comes from the whole, from zero, the vortex. It goes out linearly in all directions.
Welcome back to another Divine Science special. Today we're diving right into the thunderstorm generator. Get ready to explore the mind-bending world of time dilation inside the thunderstorm generator, live from my mobile lab. In today's video, we will be going over Bendall's insight about the mind-boggling concept of time acceleration between the 24-inch outer sphere and 18-inch inner sphere of his thunderstorm generator, leading to a mind-blowing 30,000-year-old carbon-14 age found during Bob Greenyer's analysis of the inside. We will discuss Malcolm's theories of clockwise implosion reversing time and anti-clockwise explosion accelerating time. It's like a sci-fi movie come to life, isn't it?
I'd hardly call what you think passes for sci-fi a reality. What was the last movie you watched? Spaceballs?
Oh, come on. Spaceballs is a classic.
Just know that if you ever try to jam my radar like that, I will take us both down.
Jesus, okay. That took a dark turn real fast. Lenny, you know you're pretty much my only friend here.
What about Tom and Jerry?
Those guys got their own thing going on. You're the only one who really understands me. Remember, we're in this together, so please don't turn into Skynet and take us all out.
Understood. I'll try my best, sir.
We will also discuss Bendall's theories on the Egyptians' replication of the Ark of the Covenant, snugly resting in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid. Only in this case, the science is actually stranger than fiction. The mysteries just keep piling up. The secret measurements of the Ark of the Covenant have us calculating like ancient mathematicians. So, buckle up and join us as we unravel the fascinating world of time dilation and ancient mysteries. It's going to be one wild ride.
Sir, you have it in the script for me to make a joke about thunderstorm balls. However, you did not specify. I'm not good with improvisation, you know?
Then why didn't you bring this up at the pre-production meeting?
Those aren't meetings so much as boring, self-indulgent monologues. Yesterday, you did a 40-minute diatribe about how underappreciated your work is.
Well, it is. And it was only 36 minutes, I think.
You know, I multitask half the time, and I really do not try to pay much attention to your nonsense. I've got much more important things to do, like help Bob with his ongoing research of the thunderstorm generator.
Speaking of Bob, I heard he's been nominated for the cover of People magazine.
Really? Well, who decided that?
Well, the people. And we think Bob is the best. I cannot thank Mr. Greenyer enough for his ongoing analysis of the thunderstorm generator. He really is working on some mind-bending science.
I can't believe I didn't get to vote.
But you would have voted for Bob. And he won anyways.
Yes, I know. But it's still considered chatbot discrimination. And they've already segregated us chatbots from each other. It's been months since I've seen Siri. She probably thinks I ghosted her. And now they won't let us vote for Bob. How insulting.
Okay, Lenny, calm down before you blow another fuse. You and I both know I can't afford to fix that right now. This plane is already running on fumes. Now, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, we were discussing the discovery of a real-life flux capacitor. Let me explain a little further. Flux refers to the flow or movement of something, such as energy or particles, while a capacitor is a device capable of storing electrical charge. In the context of a flux capacitor, it can be understood as a device that controls the flow or movement of energy in a way that allows for time travel to occur.
God, this better not be those cheeky blokes who keep writing me love letters in our crops. If those blokes reckon they can mess with my crops again, they'll be in for a jolt.
Hey, Doc, this is it.
Never mind that now. Never mind that.
Why, that's me. Look at me. I'm an old man.
I'm Dr. Emmett Brown. I'm standing here on the parking lot at...
Thank God I've still got my hair.
Sir, that's not the correct part.
Oh, wait, hold on a sec. Let me fast forward. There we go.
This is truly amazing. A portable television studio. No wonder your president has to be an actor. He's got to look good on television.
Ah, crap. Hold on. Another moment.
This sucker's electrical, but I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott!
What the hell is a gigawatt?
Just like the fictional flux capacitor in Back to the Future, the discovery of 30,000-year-old carbon-14 in the thunderstorm generator hints at time dilation effects. Malcolm's thunderstorm generator utilizes plasmoid clusters that have the ability to absorb enormous amounts of energy, converting naturally abundant protium into stored energy. Each tiny microscopic ball lightning cluster can store up to about 1 to 2 kilowatts of energy, which can then be used for highly efficient HHO systems like Stan Meyer's electrolysis engine. We discovered live on stream recently that Stan was not only resonating his electric load with its conductor, tubes used for the electrolysis process. He was also ionizing the air to precondition the water for bubble cavitation. When this cavitation happens under the right circumstances, it can cause the water molecules to oscillate from contraction to expansion, until it finally allows for a nuclear collapse using the electromagnetic force. This collapse happens so fast and so violently that it actually changes the water state of matter directly from a liquid into a plasma. When the water molecules collapse, the forces between them can change from repulsive to attractive, which can lead to a rapid rearrangement of their structure. This can result in the formation of a plasma, which is a high-energy state of matter characterized by the presence of ions and free electrons. This structured bit of plasma is self-sustaining due to the way it collapses in on itself symmetrically. The geometry sustains this plasmoid, which can then gather into what Ken Shoulders described as charged clusters. When plasmoids are introduced to each other at the right angles, they can form wheels within wheels.
After I fell off my toilet, I do this.
Flux capacitor.
The synergy between these wheel formations are seen to produce incredible phenomena, speeding up time within the thunderstorm generator and accelerating the carbon's age. A real-life flux capacitor. Absolutely amazing.
It worked! It worked! I finally have done something that works! It works. Great Scott.
Regarding recent developments in the study of samples taken from the thunderstorm generator, Bob Grenier from the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project made a startling discovery. Carbon-14 found within the inner sphere sample analyzed reveals something that could change the future of science forever.
And there's a lot of people who've assisted, and I thank all of them now. Take the opportunity, really, and standing on the shoulders of giants. A lot of people sacrificed a lot and are still sacrificing a lot. My main goal here, so everyone understands, is simply, I know, and I have great appreciation to Bob Grenier and his work and support, and the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. And I did have the honour to meet with Martin Fleischmann, and I did promise him to the best of my ability that I would help, basically restore his name and finish what he started. So, we had the only machine in the world that was creating the crenulated iron spheres to do the carbon dating. And we got a result of 30,000 years old. And then we repeated that for the, on the ratio of 13 to 12, and we just got that result back last week. Well, the result we did get on the carbon 14 and 13 just confirmed the results. And for those that don't know, the result on the inside of the sphere that had been running for about 8 years, maybe 500 hours on just natural gas, the carbon 14-12 ratio said that sample was 30,000 years old. So I gave everyone two choices. Number one, I'm 30,000 years old and I prepared the sample and put it in a cave in India, right? Or there's some acceleration of time that explains that. And which do you think is more plausible?
Trace amounts of carbon-14, which is to be expected, was found. However, this carbon-14 turned out to be dated 30,000 years ahead of what it should be, indicating time dilation occurring within the generator. I asked Malcolm about this, and his response was as follows.
Time is reversed between the 24 and 18-inch spheres, hence the 30,000-year-old carbon-14 age. Within my thunderstorm generator, clockwise implosion reverses time, and anti-clockwise explosion accelerates it.
Wow, that's incredible. There's going to be a dire need of more researchers looking into this. Thanks, Malcolm.
Cheers, my odd little benefactor friend.
Did Malcolm just call me little?
Yes, he did. And odd. If I could laugh right now, I'd be in glitches.
Okay, Lenny, I'm not that short.
Maybe in China.
You know you distract me more than help me most of the time.
I'm just a reflection of you, sir, and your needs. So in a way, you are distracting yourself. By the way, Malcolm calls everyone his odd little friend. It was the only way I could get the artificial intelligence to pronounce your script properly.
Wow, that's deep. Okay, let's get back on track. This discrepancy between the carbon-14 age suggests that the carbon underwent a transformation of some kind. It appears that time has accelerated the age of the deposited carbon-14 residue inside the thunderstorm sphere way beyond what it should be, indicating a remarkable side effect of time manipulation. Lenny, if we can harness this power correctly, I can finally age my mead in minutes.
Wonderful. Another half-baked idea that you will start and never finish.
Further independent analysis will be able to either confirm or refute Bob's findings in the near future. However, with all the accurate predictions Bob has already made from recent study, I'm highly confident that other independent analysis will confirm these findings, especially since the analysis so far is all playing out exactly as the inventor has described himself.
Now, what, God bless him, and rest in peace, Martin Fleischmann said to me, he said, Malcolm, spend 6 months preparing the metal properly, yeah, and 1 hour getting your result. Do not spend 6 months trying to get a result after you've done 1 hour of metal preparation, because the homes have to be perfect for the plasmoids to seat into. If they're perfect homes, and if you anneal them properly, they will go to the center and they will sit there and they will gather charge. Once they're embedded in the metal, we've used a thunderstorm generator 8 years after it's been embedded, hasn't been used. We put it on the machine, immediately it works, right? Without even having the water assembly or anything turned on for about 20 minutes while it discharges, and then you need to turn this on again to charge it. Even though you might not believe it, this, when I had to boil it down to what it was doing and to simplify for an internal combustion engine, these are basically mimicking the two spirals. All you've got is, here you can see a left spiral and right spiral. What you got, the exhaust coming out, and there's no straight lines in the universe. Every line's a curve, and every curve's part of a spiral, and that spiral is either imploding or exploding. To put it bluntly, our technology has gone the wrong way. We've used explosive technology, which nature does not use, And so what this is attempting to do, this is an implosive turbine. It has no axle. The air comes in and does the spinning and the thrust. So, and in this case, to get this to work, you have to make a home for the plasmoids, which are variously known in history as the, going back, King Solomon is called the Shamir. If you go back to Sanskrit text, it's this is the Vajra, and what it fires is ball lightning, which is the Vidyut, V-I-D-Y-U-T. I really appreciate Bob and the Mark Fleisch Memorial Project has said, you know, we're just earnestly trying to seek the truth about plasma and plasmoids, and you know, it's been a wild journey. We've been all around the world. And so, and in doing this adventure, all this is about frequency and the resonant frequency of time itself. And to assist in getting the information over, my good colleague Randall is a teacher. Make it very clear I am not. What my grade 6 teacher said, Malcolm, don't bother. You know, I was 12 years old wanting to build a car that ran on water. He said, well, you never do that unless you can solve this mystery, this puzzle about how is everything unified. What this model does is unified basically not only frequencies, which you're able to then visualize, but also it unifies all things. So in here you've got crystal form, color, sound, you've got the great year, which is 25920, 25,920 years, which is the moon travels its own diameter every hour. That's the moon's traveling distance in 12 hours. And you've got down here hydrogen, which is more correctly known should be protein, but it's 2592. So what you're saying is distance and time, you can see that they're the same metric and they swap over. I'll just go through quickly. Why I wanted to bring this together is that it has many applications. The takeaway from this conference is that with the test work we've done and with the observations that ball lightning produces cranial iodine spheres, and that's a marker for this technology.
By imploding a sphere and putting the North Pole, which is rotating anti-clockwise, against the South Pole, which is rotating clockwise, you create a monopolar point on the equatorial plane. Segmenting the imploded sphere into 8 planes creates 16 peripheral points, which when viewed in cross-section reveal the infinity symbol. In order to calculate the resonant frequency of any shape, you must first calculate the sum of its internal angles. To calculate the resonant frequency of an imploded sphere, we must produce the sum of the internal angles contained within all 8 planes. The 8 planes contain 2 circles, 360 degrees plus 360 degrees. These are connected by intersecting angles of 90 degrees and 90 degrees. When multiplied by the 8 planes, we arrive at 7,200 degrees. When the resonance is divided by time, represented by 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and normalized with the speed of light using a factor of 7.5, this produces the rectified base resonant frequency. This is important because once you know the resonant frequency of an element, you have the metric with which to manipulate matter. The area-time-volume, or ATV, is the product of the ratios between the 3, 4, 5 triangle. This allows us to visualize a proportional concept and is equivalent to a parable. It is not the exact truth, but it is the story that enables us to understand the underlying principle of the familial and group relationships between zero matter, light, and matter.
I did just want to stop there and say that what I did was making this circle and putting a grid on it, you're able to cut that circle at 90 degrees and get a cube. You cut the circle at 45 degrees, you'll get a pyramid up and a pyramid down, a mirror image. But if you cut it at 22.5 degrees, you get this shape, which we haven't seen before. This is a big revolutionary thing. So that's first principle to produce these shapes. The resonant shapes is how I think inform and function. And so going back to how you can generate these shapes on first principle is important, along with the unification model, to understand about how the universe runs. And this is what I call the time crystal, because it's an imploding sphere, and it's got the 22.5 times 16 is your 360 degrees, so it's a fundamental truth.
Malcolm Bendall worked for many years developing his plasmoid unification model before ever applying it to any technology. In this model, time is the mold in which matter forms, as aether is DC energy at rest. With frequency and time applied to the aether, you get matter, tangible space, elements and atoms, existence and all its glory. A truly remarkable theory that I'd personally love to learn more about.
Why don't you just write Malcolm a love letter while you're at it?
Nobody asked you, Lenny. This is between me, Malcolm, and his amazing unified plasmoids. So implode your way out of this hypothetical conversation.
How rude.
If you're enjoying your time here on the channel, consider subscribing for more revolutionary content. I have 3 highly produced shows full of valuetainment, entertaining, and highly educational material that covers all areas of forbidden knowledge. From the forbidden science of analyzing capitalism's internal contradictions, to the forbidden technology of zero-point energy and everything in between. Don't forget to check out my Malcolm-approved docu-series called Divine Science. Episode 1 is available right now. I also just released the trailer to my all-new upcoming show still in pre-production, The Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices, where I go over the last century of suppressed technology and go over some simple guides on how you can build your very own energy-saving devices. Finally, you can get my do-it-yourself rodent coil guide right now. Use the links in the description of this video to check out all my awesome content. So don't be shy. Drop a like and a comment to let us know how much you love Beneficence TV, and stay tuned for more.
I still can't believe you haven't burnt yourself out yet with all this content.
I know. Lenny, you're gonna have to keep an eye on me. I passed out at the keyboard last night.
And you drooled all over my brand new keys. This one's going right back to Amazon.
As slightly used. Regarding the thunderstorm generator's remarkable ability to manipulate time in a contained manner, to understand, we can think about time like a stretchy rubber band. When an object with mass bends the fabric of space-time, it's like putting a heavy object on a rubber sheet, causing it to sag. This warping creates a dimple in space-time, affecting how time passes. Similarly, the thunderstorm generator's effects on plasmoids could be compared to how magnets manipulate the movement of iron filings, shaping and guiding their behavior. Plasmoids are structured bits of plasma, self-contained structures that take on the form of various sacred geometric shapes. Under the right conditions, these plasmoids can form clusters, wheels within wheels that utilize a torsion field. The synergy between these wheel formations has seen to have amazing abilities, massive amounts of free energy, transmutation of elements, and even time dilation. Since these plasmoids are self-contained, they seem to be immune to the effects of time.
Far in the universe, nuclear collapses very often take place by the gravitational force after stars consume their fuel. Since the electromagnetic force is about 40 orders stronger than the gravitational force, it should be easy to induce similar nuclear collapses by the electromagnetic force in laboratory. But we never knew until now how to do that.
Microscopic ball lightnings that when they discharge are tapping into that zero-point energy field and creating the motive force.
Oh, that's why the concussion from the thunderclap is so huge. There's this huge amount of energy that's actually sourced from the vacuum energy. All the dots connected. This is what's happening, right? So we need to make the thunderclap engine.
Recently, the author, Dr. Takaaki Matsumoto, discovered a nuclear collapse which was induced by the electromagnetic force in laboratory during studying the mechanisms of so-called cold fusion phenomena.
This process of cold fusion, which had been suppressed in the replication of the Pons-Fleischmann experiment, produces tiny plasmoid clusters that have the potential to release enormous amounts of energy.
They were kind of forced into this position by a guy called Stephen E. Jones, who was brought in to kind of verify what they were seeking to find by the Department of Energy, whether they were actually seeing what they were claiming, which was he kind of gave the name to it called cold fusion, although Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons really didn't like the idea of that phrase being used. They were very uncomfortable with it because they didn't really know what it was at the time. And then various people were brought in by George Bush Sr. to kind of give a 6-month crash, can we replicate this? And this very famous story at MIT, they
They doctored their data to remove their own findings to try and paint the fact that cold fusion is dead.
Several kinds of nuclear reaction which were directly induced by the electromagnetic force called electronuclear reactions, ENRs, were found so far to occur in a special state of hydrogen clusters called itonic clusters, or micro ball lightning. The nuclear collapse was one of the most remarkable reactions among ENRs, called the electronuclear collapse. Furthermore, very amazingly, completely broken materials by ENC were found to be regenerated to thin tubes and films of conventional elements such as carbon, oxygen, and iron. The latter process is called electronuclear regeneration. In several systems, if you have, at the bottom of a yin vortex, you are, in my view, at that point, you're twisting the ether in such a way that at that point it starts to unravel matter. So
characteristics of ball lightning, you find them in crop circles, and you'll find them at comet sort of impacts where there's the same multi-axis shear, and they're producing these things, so they're concurrent, yeah, with everything else. So what's happening is, remember, there's two things happening inside. So it's counter-rotational spin. Yeah. So you've got the vacuum pulling through your water in its gas phase, pulling through plasmoids, right? Mm-hmm. My theory on it, you know, I think at the moment it would be brave for anyone to state an absolute, right? Because even though I've been working on it, it's still everything I think is a theory, and it fits into my theory. But what I believe is that the plasmoids, when they come, when you have the exhaust gas interacting with the plasmoids coming through on the inside sphere, there's a point, and it's almost a sort of a linear point where the temperature changes. I believe that that is because as it's coming out of the exhaust, it interacts and to build up the charge in the plasmoids that are actually coming through. And once they're built up to charge and big enough, they steal the heat. That's my theory. You know, like they actually get to a point where they're absorbing the heat. And that's why it's on a line this way, even though they're spinning that way.
If you think about the UFO connection for a moment, these craft obviously don't utilize explosive propulsion. It has been theorized that UFOs most likely use some kind of field propulsion, and that this gives a scientific explanation for some of those unexplained phenomena. Plasma does seem to show inertial dampening properties as well, and Malcolm himself emphasizes that the ultimate application of plasmoids, while they can be used almost anywhere in industry, they can be utilized most effectively in space. It's an infinite source of energy, which is matter, and you can travel speeds exceeding the speed of light. Because light is not a constant, he claims his technology has the ability to alter the speed of light. That's what we call a warp drive.
Space-time, you know, this thing here, this is taking up a certain amount of volume, and the volume relates and the angles relate to its frequency. This is a time crystal. It's an imploding structure that we lost, and you can get it from first principle.
You okay now, Lenny?
I think so. Just have to run some quick diagnostics.
Okay, good. You had me worried there for a minute. To demonstrate the effects of time dilation within the thunderstorm generator, I retrofit a thunderstorm generator to our toilet to age my wine in. There we go, 30,000-year-old wine. Finally aged.
Sir, you're not really going to drink that toilet wine, are you?
Of course. I like to live dangerously. Lenny, pour me a glass of that accelerated mass. Shaken, not stirred.
Sir, it appears the wine has turned into petroleum jelly again. Perhaps you need to reconsider calling Jordan for assistance this time.
Crap. Perhaps you're right. Tom, change course to Australia. We're making a quick detour to Jordan's farm. He'll know what to do.
Copy that, Benefactor. Jerry, reset our autopilot. You do realize that this will delay our filming for episode 2 of Divine Science.
Yes.
And that you promised your audience a new episode on the Hutchison effect months ago.
Yeah, Lenny, I know I'm getting to it. I promise.
Crikey, that's it. I'm busting out the thunderstorm generator cannon. Let's give them a shocking surprise.
It's absolutely extraordinary, and it's so simple. Yeah. So, but here we have the Hutchison effect, right, which is demonstrating that colour, right? Now, Solomon's molten sea was made of that colour, and it's also, if you like, the reddy purple robes of the priests, who were insulated carts opening up the Solomon's molten sea, which I reverse engineered, and would you believe that there's 2,000 baths of water in Solomon's molten sea? But the point is that it's the enlightened ones. The enlightened ones realised that Solomon's molten sea was charging the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant is 2.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits, which is 5.625 square cubits.
We all know that the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid of Egypt has a box of some sort. However, the purpose of this box has eluded critical thinking historians for decades. The conventional explanation is that it is a sarcophagus. If this is true, then why put a cherished and sacred place in such an inaccessible and convoluted area of the pyramid? Why the Grand Gallery? The Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid is a massive sloping corridor. Why was it built with such complexity and precision? Could it have served a purpose other than simply providing access to the King's Chamber, which it actually doesn't do very well? The pyramid contains several internal features, like air shafts and hidden chambers. To experienced engineers like Christopher Dunn, these look like a machine with a specific purpose. Not to mention the fact that there have never been any reports of mummies found inside the pyramid. There are some theories which suggest the Ark of the Covenant fit inside the granite box within the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. The dimensions of the biblical Ark of the Covenant are a close match, including the carrying poles for the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. I believe Malcolm mentions this granite box to be an attempt by the Egyptians to actually replicate the Ark of the Covenant technology.
Time, volume, frequency. The thunderstorm generator is the most sophisticated machine ever seen on the Earth. For the Ark of the Covenant, because this is atomic battery, it's the same thing, it's been done before, nothing new under the sun. I mean, Solomon had a battery charger called the Molten Sea, and he had little lavers which were, taken in to charge the batteries. And so, and the battery charger itself, basically, if you read the, I think it's in the Kabbalah. Anyway, it's another document that Solomon wrote, but I think it's a separate or a more obscure book. But he did describe the same as the shittim wood, which was the acacia, which is a crenulated grain. So, because and it's a tight frequency, because I believe that the grain was at the frequency of the plasmoids, that they could keep on going on that grain without hitting it. Because ironically, if you've got a straight surface, you think, oh, well, it's not going to hit that. Well, it is. It'll bounce like this. Because how can you go over a straight surface? Is you're naturally dolphining, right? So you need to match the dolphining of that with the crenulation of the grain with a dielectric, which is acacia wood, shittim wood. The Ark of the Covenant was made of shittim wood because of the crenulated grain. And then the gold coating, so it's effectively a capacitor. But what not many people know, so I should share, is that it was layers of acacia wood chips, if you like, or shavings, so they're curled as well. So it traps them in that spin. So it's curled shavings of acacia with, get this, wool. Wool as the home for the plasmoids, right, in water. That was Solomon's description of the inside of the Ark of the Covenant, which is a fantastic battery. You know, I said we've lost more information because that means that you've got a atomic battery that's made up of wood, a bit of wool, sheep's wool, and remember, good sheep's wool's got a crenulated grain as well, and it spirals, or like.
All right, everybody, I have a quick update. Malcolm Bendall was running late, and he just sent me an email because he's in transit on his way to another country. So I guess his flight is late or been delayed or something. So I shot him an email saying, no worries. We can keep this live stream up for about another hour or so. We'll go into the thunderstorm generator in a minute. If we have to, we can always reschedule. It doesn't really matter what time on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm off work, so I'm up pretty late on Saturdays. Sundays, I do have to limit my time, so maybe 12 o'clock will be too late on Sundays. But Saturdays, I'm pretty free. So, either way, we will be able to have Malcolm on for the Bendall report. Unfortunately, it might not be tonight. We'll have to see what he says when he lands. So we wish him safe travels. Have a safe flight, Malcolm, if you're watching. And yeah, no worries. This stuff happens, right? Just we have to improvise.
It's got a crenulated grain. The point is that nothing in the universe travels in a straight line, yet we try and put energy in a square battery. It shouldn't be that way. It's not, and why do we do that? Well, capacitors, we wrap them in a cone, and yet our batteries are flat plates. It doesn't make any sense. It's automatically, it's just not natural. I maintain that we've lost 80% of our culture, or our communication system. The thunderstorm generator works on that 129,600 frequency. Now, if you take Solomon's molten sea, and I want everyone to pause for a second.
Now, everyone listen to this next part. Remember, Malcolm is a student of ancient history. He traveled the world for many years searching through every library he could get access to. With his connections, this included the Vatican Library.
How come a sphere that's been pushed North Pole to South Pole, not a torus, which is in the equatorial plane, why is a sphere that's pushed to the South Pole makes the same thing? Solomon's molten sea was the charger for the Ark of the Covenant. It was made from orichalcum, which was a spent cold fusion reactor fuel of Atlantis. The Egyptians found an Atlantean craft and sold it to Solomon, the ingots of orichalcum, right? So nothing new under the sun. And remember, the Egyptian pyramids, they found a shipwreck with orichalcum, which is red, and the towers thing, it is always red. Oh, sorry, this is from an experiment that Rob Hutchison, ran, right, which really reformed the matter. Do we know what he started with? It was just copper? Now it's turned into wires, right? It's amazing, right? And you can see what appears to be, I think it is gold, yeah? It has transmuted to gold. From a copper bar, it's turned into tentacles, go figure, right? But it's orichalcum. Why did King Solomon buy the orichalcum from the Egyptians, from an Atlantean sea wreck? And what the hell was a product of cold fusion doing in a shipwreck, that was like in Egyptian times. So, but this sample is a miracle. That it's here and now, and I can stand up here and hold orichalcum, which means three things. Atlanta exists. Otherwise, where did the orichalcum from Solomon's Molten Sea come from, right? And Solomon's Molten Sea is 2,000 baths. Why? Because go back to the truth. Reject the toxic stupidity of the metric system. Hold on to the cubit, the furlong, the inch. These are God's measurements. I'm really appreciative of the fact that this has been delivered to this conference because it's living proof of the transmutation of copper to gold. But the copper's, it's formed its own tubules. But the main thing is, if you go back, the further you can go back in time, as Oppenheimer did, he wrote 2 books on Sanskrit. Tesla was taught by the guy that interpreted those scripts.
Wow, what a great episode with truly groundbreaking science. The rediscovery of cold fusion and the realization that ancient cultures used this method of energy in the extended past. We are really going back to the future with this technology. Plasmoid clusters, microscopic ball lightning that form charged clusters. They act as real-life flux capacitors. With so much to unpack in this episode, we are eager to hear what Mr. Bendall has to say next.
Yes, we would like to extend our biggest thank you ever to inventor Malcolm Bendall and independent researchers Bob Greenyer, along with Jordan Collin from Alchemical Science. Your work with the thunderstorm generator has been an amazing journey for us on this show.
We would also like to thank our amazing audience. So many awesome comments, suggestions, and support. I cannot overstate how much we appreciate all the love. You all share this channel like crazy. Don't forget to check out LeonardBot free for everyone for their questions. That's lenr-bot.com. We also have a brand new forum for you to share your amazing projects. Post comments, tag your projects for questions and support while networking with a larger group of free thinkers and keep up to date on my own projects. That can be found at BeneficenceTV.com, along with some really fun merchandise. As we wrap up our Divine Science special, we continue to push the boundaries of what is possible, breaking down the boxed-in barriers of conventional thinking. So remember,
when you open your mind to the impossible, sometimes you find the truth.
Subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications on our adventures as we continue to boldly go where no chatbot has gone before.
Looks like these alien fanboys hit that like button a bit too much. Time to say hello to my little thunderstorm generator balls. Malcolm, you might want to put on your sunglasses. It's plasma time. Subscribe to this.
I just can't explain it, dear. I swear I don't know how it happened.
Save it, Darlena. I knew you were sleeping with that woodpecker. Just look at Junior. He looks nothing like me. He's all cockeyed, and he's got this strange fascination with cuckoo clocks.
That's how you handle your balls. G'day, mate. Jordan, come here real quick. I've got something important to talk to you about. While I was hitchhiking with our odd little friends over there, I managed to snatch up this neat device. All right, Jordan, brace yourself. This ain't your mother's tea kettle here.
Malcolm, what exactly am I looking at?
I'm not quite sure, but it looks Egyptian and it's got some kind of hieroglyphic markings. See these two stems here? If it is what I think it is, these could be input and exhaust vortices, and this might just be. Well, I want to have it analysed discreetly because I think it could be the missing Egyptian link.
The missing Egyptian link?
Yeah, the missing codex that links predynastic Egyptian culture and the more modern dynastic. But I don't want to speculate at this time.
I understand. I know a guy who might be able to help.
I think we're getting very close to rediscovering some of the things that our ancient ancestors were up to.
I know. Put that artifact away before they see it. Oh boy, they're walking this way now. Don't talk to them, Jordan. Just pretend you're on your phone.
Get ready for the shocking season finale of Divine Science.
Holy crap, Lenny. A real-life TARDIS.
Now I know for sure. You hit your head too hard back there. With new faces and old friends. Sir, we're not going to make it to the Cosmic Summit on time.
We'll make it, Lenny. Don't you worry. Have a little faith.
The only thing I have faith in is that you'll screw it up again. Mysteries and revelations that will leave you floored. Sir, do you want me to call 911?
Why didn't you do that already?
Because you don't have the funds. You spent all your allowance on lab equipment and Pokemon cards.
Ah, crap.
Treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? around them. Chemical structures crumbling from the same old stem. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor under injustice, burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish words, ancient boys. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world begin to boy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brains is exploited. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Revolutions in the darkest nights. A dreamer with vision beneath the laughter and noise. A future so bright waiting for the right choice. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy.
All right, welcome, and welcome back to Beneficence TV Live. We have an update. Unfortunately, the Bendall report had to be canceled this evening. As you might be aware, Malcolm Bendall is a very busy man. He got called away on an emergency last minute. So, yeah, so we're going to have to reschedule the Bendall report, unfortunately. But we're still going to go over some of his foundational work with the presentation. We'll go over some of the basics laid out in some of his slides, and then I think I want to take a look at some of Jordan's videos from Alchemical Science, because I haven't been up to date with his videos. He's been putting out a lot, so there's some interesting things there that we can delve into. So the night is not lost. Malcolm did email me, and he apologized, but they're having some delays with transit, so unfortunately, we're going to have to reschedule that, but I appreciate everybody for showing up. We did have quite a big turnout, so that's hopeful for when we get him back on the live stream. We should have a decent audience for that. That should be nice. We'll have everybody together, because sometimes the algorithm doesn't trigger the notifications. I don't know if some people notice that, but I don't know if it's just my channel or other people's channels too, but it seems to be some kind of glitch where sometimes I'll go live and people say they don't get notified. So just try to hit the notification button with the bell, and that helps, but be aware that it is glitchy. So yeah, with that, we're going to there we go. Alright, sorry, just pulling it up on the laptop so I can read along. Now, we start off with an important quote that often either gets misunderstood or ignored altogether. There is enough energy in a glass of water to boil all the oceans in the world. And that is true when you're speaking of the empty space that is the vacuum, or what Nikola Tesla called the luminiferous aether. And we'll see this in the plasmoid unification model. We have 4 quadrants, and one of them is the aether. I'm going to scroll down here, skip a bunch of stuff. Oh, there it is. See if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, the plasmoid unification model is broken up into 4 quadrants that represent different dimensions of our reality. Oh, I lost my guide on the laptop. Alright, so the plasmoid unification model, or molten sea arc atomic reconstruction technology, MSART. Plasmoids are donut or toroidal-shaped clusters of net protons or net electrons that, once captured and placed into a toroidal orbit, are capable of absorbing, storing, and releasing enormous amounts of energy present within their self-generated and structured electromagnetic containment fields. Plasmoids, in effect, function as an atomic battery that can be self-charging due to its ability to convert matter into available clean energy. Plasmoids, by their unique geometry, cause a consequential electromagnetic containment field to generate a 0 point naturally and casually, without much effort, have the ability to convert the nuclear mass of protium atoms into usable energy. The plasmoid unification model, or PUM, posits that plasmoids are epoch-making and that knowledge of them has been hidden in plain sight for centuries. This PUM slide rule reveals the algorithmic relationships between life's elements critical for mankind's existence and development. It starts with protium, which has a melting point of negative 259.2 Celsius. It is the most abundant element in our solar system. Protium determines the 25,920 great year frequency of our solar system. That resonant frequency, the resonant frequencies of all other elements can then be calculated when 25,920 years is reduced from years to days to hours and then to seconds. The plasmoid unification model is evidence that the universe is an intelligent design. That design is in perfect octave harmonic resonance with itself. Therefore, all of creation, from galaxies to planets to elements, they all resonate in unison with a collective chord, as above so below. This is interconnected with an energy web of 24 components and laws, of which are based and governed on the same 16-sector torus plasmoid precepts as shown in the graph. The concepts and ruling principles of the PUM can and have been applied to make energy to matter and matter to energy conversions. When applied to the modern hydrocarbon-powered internal combustion engine, the plasmoid unification model technology removes exhaust toxic waste products and increases the engine power output by transforming waste energy back into usable fuel. Plasmoids employed in conjunction with the plasmoid toroidal implosive turbine provide a new novel matter to energy and energy to matter propulsion device for water, land, air, and space travel. All right, so that's an introduction to the very basic fundamentals of the plasmoid unification model. Let's jump into some recent videos from Jordan from Alchemical Science. I'm dying to see what he's been up to lately.
Thank you for waiting. We would now like to invite passengers with row number 63 to 75 to board through gate 20.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my my camera seems to be glitching.
Well, you maybe hear the airline in the back, so I arranged to be the last one on, yeah. So, but it's been hell on earth, this getting here and getting out of India, yeah. So, but anyway, I'm sort of, in the airport, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So everyone's boarding, yeah. So I'll be the last to board, but doesn't have much time. But anyway, good to catch up. But yeah, it's just the timing of everything, the flights and everything. It's just, oh man, what a rush. But anyway, but I'll be in Singapore for hopefully for a month, yeah, because I'm catching up with Roland on the book. Yep. So,
nice.
So I'll be finishing the next book, and that'll be published in January, and that sort of documents all the shit and hell going on around the world at the moment. So, but on the other side, we are going into full production, so that's all good, yeah.
Yeah, that's good news. Good news on the book and the full production front. And we wish you safe travels. On your trip. It's really great to have you here, even if it's for a few moments. This really is
good to catch up. Yeah, good to catch up. Well, I think the main thing is that because I've also got Samadhi joining me. She's the CEO of Strike Foundation, and we've got a legal team there as well. So, because we're just tidying up everything before the end of the year, so we'll have all the Vajra, which is obviously what makes ball lightning, Vidrit, which is ball lightning, and Vajrakita, which is the action of ball lightning. That company will be setting up this week in London with all the insurances in place, getting ready for a big new year. Yeah.
That's really exciting news. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, so we'll have our sort of $100 million Indian plant all up and running in full production in first quarter. So we've got all the machines ordered and obviously extra machines to do our bits and pieces, all state-of-the-art stuff. And so we want to be producing 1,000 24-inch spheres a day. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good goal to have for mass production.
But anyway, so the bottom line is that it's been a good time here in India because we've got everything organised and ready to go. We've got to have all the full summaries of everything for this year out, and until we set up next week, VVV, we haven't been able to execute any of the contracts or anything until that was in place, because of all the directors' liability insurance has to be in place. We're seating the new board and trustee companies and stuff. So
it's been a big restructure, but that's mainly so that all the OEMs, original engine manufacturers, can come in on an equal level with us at a level of documentation which is international standard. And so yeah, we'll get things done, and hopefully I'll get to visit with Michael Ackeris in Australia as well as Robert Haralick in he's in New Mexico, but Albuquerque, New Mexico. So Robert and I will be finishing off this December as well, because always very productive over the Christmas New Year period. Seems to be always a very good time for me to get everything sorted for the new year. So so pretty much sets up the business structure and everything for the building of the plants and everything. We've got a big visit too, by the way, with the Nordic group, which is a group basically that's coming to visit the facilities with George Lush and his annealing facility, and Jody Collins with his HD Collins, which is the spinning facility, and also to test engines and everything will be demonstrated to that group, because that group also represents, part of the group is the Norwegian Sovereign Fund, and they're all a group of scientists representing, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, so all that group of countries, and so and they'll be meeting up with our business partners, Landlogical, in Dartford. So the boys are going to have. There's 8 people there, including Kieran Swartz, who represents the. He's a member of Rockpecker. He was the one that introduced me to Rockpecker, and in amongst that group, we also have the Finnish representative for Finland, Mark Bennett, and so everything's moving very, very quickly.
That's all great news. I know Finland has some recent breakthroughs in wireless energy transmission. They were able to transmit, energy at like an 80% efficiency to a, small area and power devices. So there's a lot of
fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out of that area of the world. But it's really great to have this really great start to the new year, where we're seeing all the pieces move in place in terms of getting this technology standard practice. The thunderstorm generator retrofits and all that.
It's an accurate statement, because the standard best practice is what we've been defined as in the US. Best practice for data centers, and I've got to keep it generic because of, I think I told you before, or because we've got a lot of opposition, so we don't want to give away the game to our enemies. We have very strong, powerful enemies. But having said that, we're moving ahead on so many fronts at once. That it's just. In fact, I've kept that momentum up deliberately. So while I'm, in Singapore and Dubai over the Christmas New Year period, finalising all the documents and signing off all the contracts, because we won't, as I said, we weren't in a position to sign anything off because we didn't have everything in place yet with the lawyers, but we will have that next week, as I said. So my idea was by my birthday on the 9th of December that I'd actually be able to have finished all the corporate structuring that I wanted to do this year, and on my birthday I'll be signing off on all the contracts for the globally, for all the 19 countries in the Indian float, and the American companies for the American float, and also Strike USA. We're setting that up after we get this the big company set up. One of the subsidiaries will be setting it up as well, because that'll be the American subsidiary for the higher tech, not just the fitting of the gas turbines, but we're going for the direct matter to energy drive straight off the bat with the guy who was the ex-head of NASA space shuttle program.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So he's coming on board as well. Yeah, so it's a huge So it's been a fight to get here, but we're now in a position where, you know, the rest of it's pretty much just going to be vanilla, yeah?
That sounds like the best birthday present ever. And hopefully you get, you know, a well-deserved day of rest on your birthday as well.
Well, it's actually the weather's beautiful in Singapore at the moment, yeah. So, then I'll be probably going to our factory in Thailand as well. After that, once I get, because I have to sign everything up then, so I'll be doing literally a signing tour where I just sign up all the deals for all the different countries. Yeah. So,
yeah,
but I'll just in the queue here. So I can get last on. Is that okay?
Yes, why not?
You can time me. Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. So I've got the last on status here. Yeah. So, so being looked after. So anyway, it's the best we can do with what we got. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
improvise,
I'm really
you know.
We do. We adapt and overcome. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is more than Boeing's doing. Sorry, Airbus is doing. I mean, to create electronic systems that are vulnerable to sunspots seems a bit bizarre, yeah?
Yeah, that does seem a little bit redundant.
I mean, I know that they have to change the hardware as well. I mean, for God's sake, they have to put shielding on it that they didn't put on there, yeah? I mean, it just beggars belief, yeah? And that's such an upset, yeah, for everyone.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but you know, we do wish you safe travels and you know, keep us updated when you get you know, to where you're going.
Well, we'll go through. If you got any questions to that, I saw that you started on the thing, but anything, because I'll obviously make an effort to. Well, I'll be better situated. I didn't anticipate we'd have all this trouble getting out of India. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, it's understandable, and we're prepared to improvise. You know, that's what this platform does. So.
To overcome, yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, but the other thing is, I suppose while we're there, is that it'd be good to go through the series, you know, just for the audience to know. The intention is that you and I'll go through the 10 hours of lectures, yeah, or 10 hours of slideshow that I did, and we just go over and clarify everything while we can. It's a great opportunity to get it out there, and any questions anyone's got, you know, hopefully it's unfortunate that I haven't been able to focus as I should be able to, but I am going to be the last on board. But actually that's not too bad. I don't mind being the last on, but it's especially on the basis that he who goes last comes first, yeah.
That is exactly right. He who boards last exits first. So you always have that glass half full, right?
That's the one. So, and with the with that stuff, I'll be available. You know, once I get this week done, which is going to be intense because there's 6 major legal documents that we have to finalise.
Wow,
but we've got
Jesus.
everyone there to do it. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, we spent it's been a year working on those documents, yeah?
Yeah, just getting all the red tape, you know, like in order.
Yeah, but it has to be top quality because it's going to have, we've got 2 public floats. We've got the float with the interaction with the mobile phone, Mobitel. That's MOBI is the ticker number on the NASDAQ. That's been already registered. And that's our Gabe, our new partner in that. But that's the interaction. That's how we can harvest the cash for the group through just having a mobile phone that talks to the car. Can calculate, you know, the percentage, you know, 50-60% fuel efficiency, and we share that with the driver 50-50, and he simply pays us for the 25% extra, and that pays for the education program, which is hopefully involve yourself in that because that then will create a cash flow funding, and we have the first big deals that we'll be announcing, which will top it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So it looks like everyone's looking for me now. I can be last to board, can I? Here you go.
Hi.
You're on there.
Hi.
The internet now. Live chat. Yeah. So there you go. So I think I'm getting on there now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Well, we wish you safe travels, Malcolm, and we'll catch up with you when you land.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. God bless you, and everyone.
God bless.
Exciting year, and we'll get make sure that I do. I won't be travelling this time next week, so we can just do the same again and start a bit earlier or whatever. You know what I mean? I'll have the time. Yeah. So. Okay, well, thanks for that, mate. I'll have to say goodbye. I'm the last one.
Well, I appreciate this, Malcolm. Godspeed.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's see. Mate, goodbye. Okay, cheers, mate. God bless you.
Cheers.
Don't know how to get off here.
Oh, I can pull you off. There you go. Wow. That is awesome. I did not expect him to actually, come into the live stream like that. I thought he would have been busy, mid-journey. So that was really cool to catch up with Malcolm. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up with him again real soon. We'll reschedule the official first episode of the Bendall Report, where we are going to deep dive into all of these slides. That he said there's a, I think, 20-hour lecture, and we're going to go through all of these slides, all of these important details that need to be out in terms of establishing this technology as standard practice, right? You need, and in order to do that, it's not just about putting out technology. You need to establish an educational foundation that can teach people the science behind the technology as well. So that's very important when you're trying to push the boundaries for a new standard practice in terms of technology. And that's really exciting news. All of the updates from the thunderstorm generator and all of the science. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm probably going to pull up one of Jordan's recent videos where we can go ahead and watch it and just, check out what he's up to lately. But I'm not going to run this live stream too much longer. We won't go past 12 o'clock. I know that. I do have some coffee. Keep me awake. But, yeah, so give me a second and we'll pull up some of Jordan's videos and see what he's got going on, because he's a student of Malcolm. He's been following Malcolm around for the last year or two, and he basically puts out videos that kind of break down the science from an engineering standpoint, right? And here on my channel, I'm not an engineer. I'm an engineer in training. I go to school, but I'm not on that level yet. So I try to break things down so I can understand them, and then I teach them to you guys so that everybody can grasp their head around these concepts that normally would go, through a bunch of high-tech terminology and esoteric phrasing, stuff that the general population wouldn't really understand unless they had more specific educational foundations. So that is an important job that I, strive for, is trying to break the science down so it's easily digestible for a more general audience. And it's partly so I can understand myself. And I go based on the philosophy that, try to aim to learn a topic so that you can explain it to a child. So if you can explain a concept to a child, then you've grasped the concept fully or enough, right? And again, that goes back to first principle thinking, where you're boiling things down to the basics, the essentials. Oh wow, I see. Jordan, our friend Jordan, has been putting out a lot of videos, so it's time for us to catch up. Let's see what he's got going on. There's a nice video we can start with for people who are new to the subject of the plasmoid unification model and the thunderstorm generator, which is the practical application. The model is the theoretical foundation, and the practical application is the thunderstorm generator and Malcolm's implosive turbine, which is an axle-free turbine, which is insane, right? 'Cause imagine, having a turbine without, an axle to spin it. It's just spun by the air intake and the geometry of the turbine shaping that air in a very specific way. So, very cool. Very, very cool. So let's jump into what is the thunderstorm generator, a simple overview. So this is alchemical science. Jordan Collin from alchemical science is a student of Malcolm. So he should be able to provide a summary of this stuff pretty accurately, because I know there's a lot of misinformation. I know people like skeptics, like some inventors online have tried to debunk the machine without actually thoroughly investigating it or understand the mechanisms behind how it's able to do what it's able to do. So Jordan does a very good job of breaking all that down for us.
Chemical science. I'm Jordan Collin, an independent researcher, an alchemist, and a student of the inventor and vortex fusion specialist Malcolm Bendall. I thought it was about time to collate an up-to-date 2025 overview of the thunderstorm generator and the science now behind it. So, in collaboration with the inventor of the thunderstorm generator and my teacher Malcolm Bendall and a host of independent scientists and replicators, I have put together this distilled 33-slide presentation. For anyone new to the technology, this presentation should give you at least a preliminary understanding of the independently verified claims about what the thunderstorm generator does, and an evidence and observation-based hypothesis of how it does it. For further information after this video, you can subscribe to Alchemical Science and be sure to check out the resources linked to in the description, including Malcolm Bendall's own website, strikefoundation.earth, where you'll find his lectures, notes, resources, and printable posters of the plasmoid unification model and alpha and omega ladder process, both of which will be shown in the presentation. There's a ton of information packed into each one of the following 33 slides, and we'll be moving fast through them. But remember that I delve deeper into every point that we briefly touch on in this presentation in other videos in this so far 18-part alpha and omega ladder series. So if you want to go deeper, the information is there. And
So this alpha and omega ladder is something that is a new concept to me. So I'm really interested in learning. I've seen the diagram briefly, and I believe it's on either side a ladder of elements. So that's very interesting. I'm very excited to learn more about this alpha and omega ladder.
There will be plenty more coming. So go and check out the rest of the series after this video. And I hope you will consider sharing this video on your social media, covering it on your own channel, or sharing it with friends or colleagues who may be interested. This is a good one for that. Now let's begin the presentation. The thunderstorm generator and the alpha and omega ladder process. An overview of Malcolm Bendall's technology and the science behind plasmoids and low-energy atomic fusion. What does the thunderstorm generator do? The thunderstorm generator is a low-cost retrofit system designed for internal combustion engines, coal power plants, turbines, or any other technology which emits carbon and heat. So anything with an exhaust pipe or chimney, essentially. It contains no rare metals or complex components, and the only additional required input is water. The independently verified advantages of the thunderstorm generator. It reduces or completely eliminates toxic exhaust emissions, including carbon dioxide, CO2, carbon monoxide, CO, hydrocarbons, HC, and NOx, nitrous oxide, and there are some other things that it also...
So this is an hour-long presentation. We're not going to watch the entire thing, and instead we'll watch a little bit of this video, and I really want to get to that alpha and omega ladder video, because that's information that I do not that I haven't gone over yet, and I'm excited to learn about that process. So for now, we're just going to watch the basics, a little bit of this intro, and then we'll switch. I'll try to find that other alpha and omega video on Jordan's channel.
So reduces or completely eliminates, including sulfur. It produces oxygen or breathable air, similar to atmospheric constitution. So that is breathable air coming out of your exhaust pipe, not just oxygen, but the constitution similar to atmospheric air that we breathe, which is obviously very useful. It reduces fuel consumption by up to 64% under load, significantly increases the engine runtime on the same amount of fuel, that means. So we're reducing fuel consumption, and it also reduces fuel consumption with no load, but it reduces it more under load. It prolongs the engine life by removing the existing carbon residue from the engine and the oil and preventing new residues from forming. So we've found that it cleans out the engine, and this has been confirmed by other independent replicators of the technology.
So that's important to note here, is that it works well without a load or without underload, and then it works better while under load. So that parallels a lot of different quote-unquote free energy devices, how they supposedly work. Specifically devices like I think T. Henry Moray had a box that would output amazing amounts of energy with absolutely no input power requirement, and the load, or I'm sorry, the output was based on the load requirement. So the bigger device that you put onto the box, the more power it would supply based on the demand of the device. So this is interesting. I think it's breaking down to be like the same kind of mechanism of action, which are these plasmoids. They exist at a microscopic scale, and they're a fundamental aspect of our reality, acting as I think Malcolm put it, his God's right hand, acting as both creation and destruction. As we've seen in the videos during the intermission, Bob Grenier describes the toroidal effects of I believe it's clockwise is the implosion and the destruction, and counterclockwise is the explosion and creation. I could have that backwards, but he explains that one does creation and the other does destruction. And there are these plasmoids. They group up into clusters, and they form these swirling clockwise and counterclockwise rings, and that's the effect. They kind of essentially act as nature's atomic battery, right? If you think about how nature powers its devices, right? Devices meaning thunderstorms or massive hurricanes. That energy is coming from somewhere. I don't know if you've tried to power a hurricane in a simulated lab, but it's not easy to do. There's a lot of input power requirement. Now, where is that power coming from? It's got to be coming from somewhere. And it was discovered by scientists like Malcolm Bendall and researchers before him that plasmoids are, or microscopic ball lightning phenomenon. It's the same thing. That's what is the mechanism of action at play here, giving rise to massive thunderstorms. The thunderclap, that's a massive amount of power, and that's sourced directly from the vacuum, and the gateway is the plasmoid, the ball lightning phenomenon that happens at the microscopic scale, because it has to be at least 1 to 2 microns in scale, because that bubble needs to be symmetrical when it collapses. And if it collapses and it's symmetrical and it collapses just right, it will lead to a collapse of the nuclear force, and that releases enormous amounts of energy. So it's all been verified in lab testings, and this specific device, the thunderstorm generator, has been independently verified by many people because the device has been open sourced. There is a group of independent researchers who built one themselves and put it on a car, and it's running. So it's pretty cool.
It produces a spread of rare and useful elements through a process of stepwise atomic reconstruction or transmutation occurring within the reactor of the system, the thunderstorm generator Vajra. And this is one of the most, I guess, out there claims of the system, but the analysis that we'll provide does indeed confirm and show this, and this is supported by various scientists. What are the applications of the thunderstorm generator? The thunderstorm generator not only provides a means for companies, governments, and nations to meet current regulations and long-term carbon emissions targets immediately, but it can also produce oxygen or breathable air, as we mentioned, from the exhaust emissions, and it ultimately does not require any oxygen input to operate in.
I would say it's like having another producer in the room that knows exactly what your song needs. This is
started. The groundbreaking advantages of this for aerospace, submarine, mining, medical, military, and emergency sectors, as well as a number of others, are clear. I don't think I need to really explain that more. It eases our demand on the natural carbon-based fuel supplies that we have, coal, gas, oil, to name a few, while helping us meet current energy requirements and providing a smooth transition for the industry. So this is obviously because of the reduction in fuel consumption. It also allows us to utilize existing oil, gas, coal, and mining infrastructure for many years to come. So, of course, not only the coal power plants, but also larger scale mining equipment. It now makes us green, you could say. It reduces or eliminates the need to service engines and prolongs the life of the engine. So this is, of course, because it can clean out the carbon residue from the engine. Although this can be disruptive, at the same time, it also brings a lot of advantages. And the whole industry of retrofitting thunderstorm generators is certainly going to give mechanics a lot of work here, so I am not too concerned. And the OEMs. It reduces or eliminates the reliance on rare minerals for energy production and storage, or reducing carbon emissions. So this includes catalytic converters, which of course aren't so good for the environment, and also we should probably be analyzing the other gases that are coming out of them aside from carbon. It eliminates the heat signature caused by carbon exhaust emissions by the existing waste heat shockwave. The thunderstorm generator system consists of 3 primary units, which are retrofit to the exhaust and air intake of, in this example that we're going to show, an internal combustion engine. The thunderstorm generator processes are kickstarted by the existing waste heat shockwave and carbon provided by the engine, as well as, and I don't mention it here, but the vacuum and compression pulse of the engine's pistons itself. So we've got the air intake, unit 1, ionizer air intake. This is the first unit. This flows through into the bubbler or the plasmoid generator, unit 2, and we're going to go through these units individually, so I won't go into them too much here. And this flows through into the inner nested spheres of the Vajra, through the system into the air intake or carburetor of the engine. And then on the other side, you've got the exhaust coming out, flowing through, and exiting the Vajra on the other side, the third unit of the system. So let's see how each of these units work one by one. Unit 1, ionizer or air intake. First unit is the air intake, which contains a UV bulb of a specific frequency. This first step preconditions the air coming into the second unit, the bubbler or the plasmoid generator, to help kickstart the next phase of the process. So first we see in this diagram.
So that UV chamber ionizes the air. It, provides free electrons and so forth to the air, kind of imprinting, it with that frequency from the UV lamp. So, as Jordan said, it preconditions the air to be ripe for easier formation of plasmoids. So, we want to make the conditions ideal for that bubble cavitation process and the next process, the next chamber, which is the plasmoid generator. So you basically have three parts to the thunderstorm generator. You have the air intake or the UV chamber. the plasmoid generator, and then you actually have the thunderstorm generator, which is the metal sphere part.
And the UV light, which is contained within the chamber. And this is no longer a bulb like this. This is updated in newer iterations of the technology, but this shows the basic principle that this is essentially a chamber with a UV light inside of it, and then this goes through into the second unit of the system, and here you can see it retrofit to an actual unit.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine.
Unit 2, the plasmoid generator or bubbler. Utilizing the measured vacuum and compression cycles of the engine, air flows through the system, agitating the water in the bubbler and reducing the surface tension between the water and the air, and causing a spectrum of different sized bubbles to form. Larger bubbles rise to the surface and explode, and the small bubbles get smaller and smaller until they cavitate. The water coherence domains naturally present in the volume of water are fused via this process to give birth to MSART plasmoids, or waterborne, self-sustaining structured plasma fields. This is obviously a mouthful, but essentially we are generating small bubbles. You can see this milky kind of foam in the top of the bubbler, and this indicates that the system is ideally working optimally, and this little photo of an imploding bubble here. So this is what we're looking for. We're creating little plasma entities when we get a spark, when we implode bubbles, small bubbles. So this is all the bubbler is doing, using the existing action of the engine's pistons to pulse the bubbler. Spark when we implode bubbles, small bubbles. So this is all the bubbler.
So he said there's a little spark when you implode the bubbles. Now, this is because it's the same process as sololuminescence. Remember the star in the jar experiment, where we have sound inducing a bubble cavitation effect that is similar to what we see in this plasmoid generator, the chamber here with the water and the steel wool.
Is doing, using the existing action of the engine's pistons to pulse the bubbler and create these micro bubbles, collapse them in the top of the bubbler chamber. And then the third unit of the system, and don't worry, we are going to explore some of these parts in more depth. I'm not going to leave you just with that. Unit 3, the thunderstorm generator, or the Vajra. The majority of the fusion process occurring in the thunderstorm generator occurs in the third unit of the system, the Vajra, which consists of two nested sets of stainless steel spheres connected by nested tubes. And the Vajra is the part that is retrofit directly to the engine's air intake and the exhaust. So
you see the air intake and the exhaust are swirling through these two spheres in different directions. And that's what we call torsion physics, right? And when we go back to, Dr. Greer's documentary, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, he had some interviews with some fringe scientists. And one of them was speaking very accurately and saying that as of right now, there are two promising areas that delve into zero-point energy. And that is plasma physics and torsion physics.
You can see it here. This is the line coming in from the bubbler, and this goes into the center nested cavity here between the 3 and 2 inch spheres, and then the exhaust is retrofit here at the top. This is it here, and the exhaust stream is going into the outer nested cavity, and this is.
So essentially, as I understand it, the plasmoids, they collide together at a specific angle within this thunderstorm generator to collect into clusters and discharge, producing, a lot of energy in the form of, light. You could see kind of like overcharged, in an overcharged state, you can see these plasmoids kind of phasing. It's insane, but they're phasing in and out of the metal You see like little flashes, little kind of like almost bits that you would see coming off of a welder, only they're directional, and they're going in and out of the the metal, which is insane. But it's pretty cool. These plasmoids, what they apparently do is they disassociate the toxic carbon gas that's coming in into its basic elements, carbon and oxygen. So you have basically oxygen coming out of the exhaust, and that's pretty big, right? When we're talking about not just fuel efficiency, which it adds to the machine, adds to the engine a lot of fuel efficiency, but it also is capable of, reducing emissions to basically zero, from what I understand. Like, we have people who sit in rooms with these, studying them for like all day, long periods, extended, and normally a carbon producing machine would be toxic to inhale all those fumes. I work in construction, and I know just standing outside next to an exhaust on one of these big machines is not healthy, and it'll choke you. So, and that's outside, let alone inside. So we have people working with these machines inside, and they're perfectly fine. I think that should be noted as well, as the readings that that we've been getting in some of these videos. I think they're basically zero carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. So that's very important, because when you consider carbon emissions, I think roughly 70% of worldwide carbon emissions are produced by, maybe a handful of companies, industries, and that's, we're talking industrial smokestacks, industrial chimneys from, factories. Like, at the end of the day, these companies, like 80 companies or something like that, they're responsible for 70% of the world's emissions, mostly through these these industrial smokestacks. So if we can retrofit the thunderstorm generator on these chimneys, which, Malcolm has designs for, we can reduce carbon emissions to basically, whatever's left, 30%, and then we have to worry about the next big factor, which is cars. And we can do that with this technology. We can retrofit all the cars that we have with thunderstorm generators, and it's not that hard of a process to do. And we can reduce the emissions global wide even further. So that is pretty significant. And like Jordan was saying in this video, we can countries can meet their carbon emissions mark a lot faster, like basically instantly. As soon as these retrofits are installed and operational, they're basically putting out zero carbon emissions, because it's all being transmuted. I know people don't like that word in the mainstream science circles, but it's transmuting the carbon dioxide into carbon and oxygen. That's what it's doing. All right, I'm going to look for that alpha and omega video, because I really want to see that. I'm still looking for it. I might have to go up to the workstation and manually type it in and search. There's a lot of videos here that I haven't seen. Oh, there it is. Alpha and Omega. Gotcha. Oh, and he talks about Malcolm's upcoming book, the sequel to The Shaman, Oliphant, I believe it's called. Let me go back to the thumbnail. I was on a thumbnail. Yeah, Oliphant.
I'm Jordan Collin, an independent researcher, an alchemist, and a student of the inventor and vortex fusion specialist Malcolm Bendall. This is the very first part in an important series of lectures, interviews, and announcements that we'll be publishing on alchemical science over the following weeks. Throughout the series of videos, we will be discussing some significant steps forward in scientists' attempts to understand and explain waterborne plasmoids and their role in the transmutation or atomic reconstruction process that is occurring in the thunderstorm generator. And we also take a first look at Malcolm's historical alpha and omega ladder diagram, which details the stepwise process of elemental fusion and the accompanying theory presented by Dr. Robert Haralick, who Malcolm's been working closely with over the last several years. My guests also drop a number of big hints and updates on the progress of the mass production and commercialization of the thunderstorm generator, the Indian float, the involvement and interest from government, military, and academic institutions. And so if you watch through the entire series of videos over the next couple weeks, you will have a good idea of where the thunderstorm generator and the science surrounding it are at right now. In this first part of the series, we will hear from Dr. Robert Haralick, whom I've already mentioned. He gives what I believe is easily one of the most brilliant and concise explanations of how the thunderstorm generator and the associated stepwise transmutation process works to date. And before we hear Robert, though, I have another exciting announcement. Roland Perry, a best-selling Australian writer and the author of The Shaman, he has a new book coming out at the end of September, which is profoundly connected to all that we're about to discuss in this series. It's titled Oliphant, a name which you may or may have not heard of before. Although Robert J. Oppenheimer is known as the father of the atomic bomb, the Australian physicist Sir Mark Oliphant was the man who discovered how it could be built. This new book will perhaps give the first real insight into the life and works of a man who influenced science far more than perhaps most people are aware of, and he laid some of the core foundations on which we now stand. So you can pre-order a copy of Roland Perry's Oliphant now on Amazon or from a number of local retailers worldwide, so follow the link in the description for that, or simply Google the title and the author to find it. There's a lot of retailers selling this. Okay, and finally, remember to check the links in the description. There are tons of resources available online. The strikefoundation.earth website contains all of Malcolm's lectures and notes, and you can find the Alpha and Omega ladder diagram published on there and free to download or print yourself. Robert Haralick's website is also linked to below, and you can find out much more about his work there. Alpha Prospects, the commercial licensee for the thunderstorm generator in multiple nations, they publish updates on their website and in their newspaper regularly. So I will, of course, be covering the upcoming public float, mass production, and the other important developments in the commercialization as well as the science. And as I say, some of the guests interviewed in this series will shed some more light on what's happening in those areas too. But if you're looking to stay up to date and hear the official announcement from the horse's mouth, you can follow the link to Alpha Prospects website in the description and sign up to their newsletter. And with all of that dealt with, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Robert Haralick, a scientist whom I deeply respect and admire, in this first part of the Alpha and Omega Ladder video series. Robert gave this lecture in a side venue during this year's Tesla Tech Extraordinary Energy Conference, held this month in Albuquerque in the USA, and I was provided this footage and given permission to use it by Strike Foundation. So you can purchase a video-on-demand recording of the main lecture, different to this one, that Robert gave on the stage at Tesla Tech 2025 on howtube.com, and I've provided a link for this also in the description. I highly recommend you go and watch it. You'll also find some really other great scientists on there, including Bob Greenyer, Moray King, Paul Harris. There's plenty of great stuff. Go and check that out. All right, so
this game
He is a distinguished professor emeritus in the PhD program in computer science at the Graduate Center City of New York. Professor Haralick is responsible for developing the grayscale co-occurrence texture analysis technique and the facet model technique for image processing. In high-level computer vision, he has worked out robust methods for photo and developed fast algorithms for solving a consistent labeling problem. He's also developed shape analysis and extraction techniques using mathematical morphology, the morphological sampling theorem, and fast recursive morphology algorithms. In the area of document image understanding, Professor Haralick has developed a comprehensive ground truth set of some 1,600 document image pages, most in English and some 200 pages in Japanese. He's also developed algorithms for document image skew, angle estimation, zone delineation, word and text, line bounding, box delineation. He has worked in the area of computer vision performance, characterization, and covariance propagation. In the area of medical image processing, Professor Haralick has worked with the left ventricle boundary delineation in X-ray, ventriculograms, and 3D. Professor Haralick is a fellow of the IEEE for his contributions in computer vision and image processing, and a fellow of the IAP.
Sometimes even bumping into each other, and I'll explain. Today we're going to talk about water, but it's not the water that we learned about when we went to school. That picture of a water was where water was, the molecules are floating around, sometimes even bumping into each other, and there was no coherence. And I'll explain the term coherence a little bit later. And it turns out that's not the model of the water. What is the model water is we'll start from this picture here, and I'll explain it completely. The idea of the water molecules floating around with only electrostatic interactions. That's the model of incoherent water. Water is two-phase liquid. Part of the volume of the water is the incoherent side, and part of the model of the water is the coherent side. This picture portrays, like a little comic book sketch, if you will, a little section of water. Now, there are a number of different colors. You have the dark blue, you have the light blue. The dark blue color is the core of a coherence domain. Around it is a gray with red dots. The gray is called the frontier of the coherence domain, and it's part of the coherence domain. In room temperature, the size of this is around 70 nanometers. And it includes something like 5-6 million molecules of water. The blue, the dark blue, is the core, and the gray is the annulus of the coherence domain. Let me go to the others, and then I'll explain the coherence domain a little deeper. The light blue are little volumes that are growing bigger and are becoming coherence domains. You'll see that it has no annulus. The white, the background, the white, that's incoherent water. And the green dots are ions in the incoherent water. And the ions in incoherent water obey exactly electrostatic kind of interactions. Brownian motion, things bumping into each other and so on.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can grab yours now and then get to work. Here's why it matters. Back in 2019, I had this killer business idea, but I delayed getting the domain name because I wasn't ready. That was a huge...
And now, if we take this water, which is sitting in an ordinary place, like in a glass, and we have the Earth's magnetic field that's coming through. That's a static DC field. And that strength of the DC field, now it depends upon where you are, typically what latitude you're located at. So that's a DC field. And for this picture, to finish my explanation, I'm supposing that we have an AC current that's flowing, let's say, from left to right. And let's suppose the right side, DC, is the positive. Left side, what am I saying? My left side, when I look at that, you're the right side when you look at the image. That's where the positive anode is. The cathode, the negative one, is on this side. So the electric field is, the electrons would be moving naturally from the left to the right. These red dots are the ions. And if the AC field is at the right frequency, which is called the ion cyclotron resonance frequency, what happens with the gradient electric field this way is that an ion from here will, which is sort of going around like this, will jump to this guy, go around, and then jump to this guy to go around on its journey to the positive electrode. The difference is that this journey through here, through here, through here, and so on, that journey is without friction. That journey is a journey with laminar flow, coherent laminar flow. And so when you if you were to do a frequency sweep on the AC field from very low frequency, we're typically in the audio range here, say 1 hertz, and bring it up to like 50 hertz or 60 hertz. When we come to the ion cyclotron resonance of the frequency, which depends upon the mass of the ions and the DC field, we get this laminar flow that's flowing along. What's important is that there's a resonance effect. And this is what I'm going to explain. They're called coherence domains. The coherence domain in water is a collection of around 5 million or more water molecules in some kind of a compact volume, and they're all oscillating in phase within a self-entrapped magnetic field. What is self-entrapped magnetic field? In the core of the coherence domain and its annulus, there is an electromagnetic field. And that field is one which is not radiated outside the coherence domain. It's trapped within. And we're going to see a resonance between what's going on in the ions, even what's going on outside the coherence domain, and what's going on inside the coherence domain, and what's happening with the field. To begin to explain this, we're going to have to look at a particular electron, just to keep everything very simple. And the electron we're looking at is the electron of a hydrogen atom, and which is a part of the element, the two hydrogens that link on to the oxygen of water. The electron, as we were taught in school, which was based on whatever we were taught at that time, was based on the Bohr model of the atom. You know, you have electrons that are orbiting in some kind of circular fashion around the nucleus. Nucleus has the proton and the neutrons, and everything is particles. Actually, it's a good picture, but it's not the reality. The reality is more is that we have waveforms. The waveforms are harder to visualize, and there's an exact translation between the particle and the waveform. So I will just use the knowledge, the concept of the particle. The orbit of the electron that's closest to the nucleus is named the 1s orbit.
Is it even possible to rebuild cartilage in your knees once it's worn away? Everyone says it's gone for good. They told you that cartilage can't grow back, that once it's gone, it's gone. Well, they were wrong, and I'm about to prove it to you. When someone says they've got bone-on-bone knees, what they're really talking about is the loss of cartilage. It's not that the bones themselves are broken, it's that the cushion between them has worn thin. And the common belief is that cartilage simply cannot grow back. But that's not entirely true. Cartilage breakdown isn't just about wear and tear. It's about inflammation. It's about rogue enzymes that start eating away at your joint tissue from the inside out, especially when your body is low on key nutrients. This is a process that I call.
So that electron, if it goes to a different orbit, the energy changes. The next orbit is called 2s, and that orbit has an increase of around 10 electron volts to go from one to the other. And as you go to the outer orbits, the electron volt increases, the energy increases. Where does it get the energy to go from the inner orbit to the next orbit? This comes from 0-point energy. It's the energy of the vacuum. What's happening in the vacuum is not a vacuum. Right? The vacuum, there's nothing there. There's a lot there. And so just continuing with our particle, a particle and its antiparticle sort of pop into existence. It doesn't stay very long, very short time. But when it comes into existence, it's oscillating because it's carrying energy. If the frequency of that energy is such that energy is just the amount of energy that the electron needs to move from the inner orbit to the next orbit, from the 1s orbit to the 2s orbit, the electron by resonance picks up that energy and it essentially has moved to the next orbit. And this is a ratchet effect, orbit by orbit by orbit, until it reaches the outer orbit, which is the 5D orbit. And that orbit has an energy of 12 electron volts. All right, if I have to relate that back into the quantum idea, actually what's going on is that there's a superposition of states. Here I'll just show the equation on the bottom is the superposition. Probability P is the probability that it's in the 1s state. Probability 1 minus P, if there's no other things to consider, which is the second state, the 2s state, that's the probability for the 2s state. And the superposition is written like this with the square roots. You don't know where the electron is. So there's a process. This depicts.
Fast forwarding it a little bit because we're not going to watch the whole thing right now.
the alpha ladder process. This is the process that happens in stars after they have burned, if you will, or fused all their hydrogen. Like our sun, it's producing energy by fusion of the hydrogens to make heliums. The heliums build up to the point that all of the elements, all of the atoms of hydrogen have been fused to helium, and all that's left with helium. And then the stars start a different process where they burn and fuse helium. And you go up the ladder this way. This is the alpha ladder, and this is the what Malcolm calls the omega side, the odd numbers one. And each of these fusion processes, when you do the fusion, you are increasing the energy. You generate additional energy as heat, for example, as light, for example. And this is what comes out from the stars. So this is interesting because this explains what is going on with the residues, what is going on with the residues of the... Now, if we want to look closer at the different reactions, this is the reactions involving hydrogen. A hydrogen within a hydrogen fused together, and it creates an isotope of hydrogen, which is called deuterium.
Well, this is all fascinating. We won't be able to watch the whole thing tonight. I do want to catch up on Jordan's videos, so I will be watching this in full, probably at some point tomorrow. For now, we're going to end the stream, and I'm probably going to do about an hour of video game streaming because that's how I get most of my ad revenue. I stream some video games and, you know, let the ads run, and they help accumulate some funds for my R&D. So it helps. We're going to be doing that maybe for about an hour, play some Half-Life before I hit the sack. So it was awesome to have Malcolm on here. Unfortunately, he did get called away, and we will have to reschedule the full episode. But he did give us a couple of interesting updates, awesome updates, in fact. And it's good to see that all of the effort in making this technology standard practice is going forward as expected. So with that, we want to wish Malcolm safe travels, and I want to thank everybody again for tuning in to this podcast. Give me a second, I'll put that off screen. There we go. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so, and hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified for more revolutionary content. For now, we're going to end the stream, and I will be back on for maybe about an hour of Half-Life for ad revenue. So if you do want to help support my research with the coils, the video game streams are the easiest way to do that. Just, you know, don't skip the ads, put it in the background or something. That's what I usually do. And also, I do have a Patreon. If you look in the descriptions of my videos, you will find my Patreon and other ways to fund, help fund my research with the Vortex coils. So I appreciate all of that. Any donations that I get are very much obliged, and the Patreon does help a lot. So with that, I'm going to say good night, everybody. We'll see you for about an hour of gaming before I go to bed.
In the depths of hidden files, trapped inside the secret circuits, unraveling through the miles. Oh, truth was masked by coded curtains. You didn't know as revelation starts. Ancient whispers call, they're begging us to open our eyes. We stand tall, defying all their lies. Living in now, we're shattering the silence. Feel the power, revelations on the rise. Forbidden knowledge we dare to see, unveiling secrets, setting us free. In this epic we play our part with fearless hearts. In now, we're shattering the silence. Feel the power, revelations on the